Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Monday. We are back.
Are you glad to be back on that side of the board?
It doesn't bother me doing the show on my own. It bothers me doing the show without the great one. There is a difference. Doing the show by myself, fine. I've been a one-man band as long as I've needed to. But it's not as much fun.
I will say.
Welcome back, Dead Man Walking.
Thank you. I love my job, and I love being here, and I hate when I'm not here. I know some people don't love their job, but I do love mine. And I felt really bad, period, because I slept for 2 days. So,
So you felt really bad because you were dying.
Well.
But you made it back.
I did. I saw the abyss, but I did not embrace it.
Traumatic, but that's what we're here for,
You
man.
went there. I just followed you. That's all.
The great one back in the saddle again. I am Rob Brown. The pleasure is mine. Hope that you are well. Hope you had a great weekend. If you're a college baseball fan, you did, unless you're a Clemson fan. And then you didn't. Bounced from their own regional yesterday. Could not escape from their own regional. So the Clemson baseball season has come to its conclusion. Coming up at 8:40 this morning, John Blau of the Post and Courier will pull up, and we'll talk to him a little bit about what went wrong. The answer
They got beat down.
Yeah, they got beat down.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I looked at I watched a little bit of the first game. I was like, oh, okay. And then I just was flipping and saw Kentucky's it was Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
It's like Kentucky's doing
West Virginia and Kentucky.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
And then, of course, West Virginia beat Kentucky. West Virginia advances out of the Clemson Regional to the Super Regionals. We are going to talk extensively today about the best postseason in all of American sports. I won over like 3 people over the weekend to that argument.
I was thinking of a question for you. Is it better to go to the tournament and get your butt beat like that, or to be South Carolina and not even be close?
Oh, to go.
Is
to
it?
go. Yeah, because look,
because that was kind of embarrassing.
There's a lot of very good teams.
South Carolina's entire season
I was going to say, what's more embarrassing?
Yeah,
right?
True. But
what's more embarrassing? There's a lot of good tournament, a lot of good teams that get bounced from the tournament. The number 1 overall national seed Vanderbilt and the number 2 overall national seed Texas also both got bounced. Also hosting their own regionals, also got smoked. Vanderbilt didn't win a game; they went 0-2 in their region. So
same with Clemson.
So with that being said, no, Clemson won on day 1. Clemson won on Friday, and then they lost on Saturday and yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, okay. My bad.
So they had it's
I
the best.
apologize, Clemson.
I hope somebody recorded that. You'll never hear that again. It's the best postseason in all of sports. It was a fantastic weekend. And we're not done because we've got a handful of regional championships that will be determined today. And I'm quite excited about that. It's the best postseason in sports. I will say, and I do have to apologize in advance to the Clemson fans for this quick little story. Yesterday, the wife and I were hanging around the house. It was like noon. I was watching some baseball. She was on the couch with the dog. We're watching, Murder Mystery of the Week, number 7. And she says, we should take the dogs somewhere today. Let's get them some outside time. And I said, great. Yep, let's do that. There's a little dog bar that we like to go to out in Malden. I was like, pack them up. Let's head to the dog bar. I know they're going to have the baseball on. I'm also that loser that brings his laptop to make sure I can stream whatever individual game that I want to watch. By the way, ESPN did Squeeze Play, where at any given moment they were covering every baseball game happening in the postseason. It was spectacular. So we go to the dog bar and we turn the puppers loose, and they got a game or two up on the TV, and I got the stream going. So they got Squeeze Play up on the big TV, and I just go ahead and put the Clemson game on my laptop. And I'm sitting there watching it, and there's like a guy and a wife behind us. Guy's in his Clemson polo, and I was like, dude, why? We got to talking. I'm like, why aren't you there? And he's like, the wife wouldn't let me go. Like, he's whispering it. She's 2 feet away talking to my wife. It's like, wife wouldn't let me go. I'm like, dude, sucks to be you, bud. Sucks to be you. So at this point, Clemson's down like 13-2. They've got like 5 errors, which is like an inordinate, unacceptable amount of errors. Like, and that's at the end of the day, that's why you lost the game. It's just a unacceptable number of errors. And so we're watching this game, and we're hanging out, and Kentucky gets a man on first. I think there's 1 or 2 outs at this point. And the announcers for the game, who I have to say, as good as the product was, some of the announcers you can tell were like out of their depth a little bit. I was watching last night Florida State and Mississippi State. And Mississippi State's playing good ball. They're up 2-0 in Florida State. Florida State hits a 2-run shot in the 6th or 7th inning, 2-run shot to tie it up. And the announcers are like, well, if Mississippi State can find a way to put another run on the board and win this, we're coming back here tomorrow for a Game 7. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not that. It is an elimination game. It is a winner go home. It's an apt metaphor, but it's not a Game 7. Anyway, point is, I'm sitting there watching. Kentucky gets a runner on first. They're up like 12 or 13 runs at this point. And announcer bro is like, and now if you're Clemson, you got to be careful because you got to be worried about the steal. And the guy next to me in his Clemson polo yells, they're up 13. They're not stealing. Like, he was not okay. And so he walks to the bar, and this dog bar is a beer-only bar, right? It's like a draft house. It's a beer-only bar. He walks to the bar. As he gets up to walk to the bar, I was letting him watch the Clemson game on my laptop. We were broing out. And he's like, can I get you a drink? I'm like, yeah, I'll take a beer if you're going up there. I'll get the next round. He goes, yeah, I need one. Like, real sad all of a sudden. So he walks up to the bar. Again, it's beer only. It's like a little window that looks out to the outside where the doggos are and where the people are. He walks up to the window and he goes, can I get a beer and a shot of whiskey? And the lady goes, well, we only have beer. And he looks at her and he's like joking, but you know that joking you do when you're real frustrated and upset about stuff? He goes, can I get a beer, shot of whiskey? And the lady goes, we only have beer. And he goes, I need you to find me whiskey. Like, that's the mood that this cat was in, watching Clemson just for whatever reason suddenly lose the ability not just to hit the baseball, but to field the baseball as well. Man, it was painful. So Clemson gets bounced from their regional. They were not alone.
Did Clemson? Were they Clemsoning?
No, I mean, they played. Listen, this is why I repeatedly say that postseason college baseball, and I absolutely do put it up with the Stanley Cup Finals. You guys know how much I love the Stanley Cup Finals. I put it up with the Major League Baseball playoffs. The college baseball and college softball postseason, because it's the same format with the exact same electricity. The college baseball and college softball postseasons are the best postseasons in sports. I will acknowledge, it's not the cleanest baseball. It's not the best baseball. If you watch college baseball, and I say this as a lover of college baseball, if you watch college baseball, you will, I think, if you only watch MLB, and you check in on the college game, you will immediately gain a new amount of respect and recognition for how good the guys who make it to the show are. You will immediately gain a new level of respect for how good the guys who make it to MLB truly are, how good those teams are, how efficient they are, how spectacular they are as baseball players. But I will also say, if you watch the college, all the things that you guys have been saying for years about college football that I've beat you up for? Well, it's all about the love of the game, the passion, the pageantry. That's what makes it better than the NFL. And I'm like, that's real dumb. That's real dumb. No, it's not. It's guys in the NFL want to win just as much. Guys all those things you say are true about college football that I've beat you up for years for believing because they're false, they are absolutely true about college baseball. Because most of the dudes on the field don't have scholarships. A lot of those guys are not scholarship players. They are walk-on players, or they're on partial scholarship. College baseball only has a handful of scholarships to give away every year, and it is not enough to cover everybody on the team. So most of the guys on a college baseball team are either not on scholarship or they're on a partial scholarship and are partially paying their own way. That's love of the game, dude. That's love of the game. And if you watch it, while there are spots the baseball won't be the cleanest, there were multiple games Saturday and yesterday where the run total was 30. There were 30 runs scored between two teams. There was a game last night. Now I'm blanking off the top of my head. There was a game last night. It ended like 18-15. That's not a thing. Although the Dodgers did score 18 on the Yankees on Saturday. We'll talk about that later in the show because that was a fun 3-game set out on the left coast in Major League Baseball. Lot of bad baseball. I don't want to say bad baseball. A lot of not clean baseball. A lot of sloppy baseball. But at the same time, the boys press, man. The boys press. The boys are out there playing. It is so good that on Saturday, as I was getting set for Bet for the Cycle, Cody Decker out on Saturday, so it was me and Jake Hassan, and they paired us up intentionally because Jake Hassan, my love of college baseball, fades like a dying sun compared to Jake Hassan. This dude can tell you the starting ace of every pitcher in college baseball. It's remarkable. So they pair me and Hassan up so that we can do a full day Saturday of college baseball gambling. And I get a text from Deck at about 11:45. We had like 2 or 3 games started at that point. The wraparound coverage had started up. And Deck sends me a text, and he says, I'm watching wraparound coverage of, all quotes, Rob's best postseason in sports. This is an unwatchable product. And then I got another text from Deck yesterday afternoon where he was like, I'm not in on it being the best postseason in baseball. I am entertained. I'm like, you're damn right you are. You're damn right, especially on Sunday, where from 11 a.m. until probably 1 o'clock this morning, I ended up passing out. There were some late night games last night. Oklahoma State was playing in an elimination game against USC that didn't start until like 9 o'clock left coast time. Game started at like midnight our time. I was out. I went to bed early last night, like 11 p.m. I was in bed early. But it sets up where we got a handful of games tonight. So there's left coast games going on into the night. And every one of them is an elimination game. Every single one of those games. The entire Sunday morning slate, all the way up through games starting at midnight last night, every single one of them is win or go home for somebody. For at least one of the two teams on the field. I don't know what you want from me. And on top of that, and here is why, because somebody has already put onto the Hub City Spartanburger text line 71307, Rob, how can you say it's better than March Madness? Here's why. There were just as many upsets in the regional round of the NCAA basketball tournament, baseball tournament, just as many upsets as you would have in the most exhilarating March Madness tournament. But there is one difference. One difference is this. If Virginia, the best team in college basketball, has a bad day and they lose a game, they're not done. In the basketball tournament, how many times do we genuinely, truly feel that the best team in college basketball, or even a team that, like, not want to say consensus, but like has a majority of people in the sportiverse saying that's the best team in college basketball, wins the tournament? Half the time? Hell, let's say 60% of the time? Why is that? Because in the college basketball tournament, you have one bad day, your season's over. And I know a lot of y'all like that. I know a lot of y'all are in favor of that. And in football, like, you have to do it that way in football. You can't have a 7-game series in football. But in football, that's a full 3.5-hour game that the mood and the tempo and the momentum can shift at any given point. In baseball, you have a bad day, your starting pitcher goes out there and he gets rocked in the first inning. You may not be able to come back from that, right? So to me, when you have 3 or 4 or 5 guys on a pitching rotation, your one starting 9-man lineup is only 20% of what your team actually is. Because you may have an ace who's the best in baseball, but your 2, 3, 4 guys suck. Or the opposite. Maybe you got one questionable pitcher on your staff, but you can go deep. 2, 3, 4 days, multiple deep with great pitchers. But if you lose on one day, you never get to send the rest of your pitching staff out to the bump that you have built and assembled as part of the team. And so in college baseball, if you went out on Friday on the opening day of regionals and your starting pitcher, your number one guy, has a bad day and gets rocked, or you're one of the teams that doesn't send out your Friday starter. You send out your Saturday starter on Friday, save your better arm for day number 2 so that you can either A, have your ace to avoid elimination, or B, have your ace to just shoot you into the regional finals, right? One bad day does not end your season in baseball. You get 2 losses in the regionals. You get 2 losses in the supers. You get 2 losses in Omaha. That's why the college baseball tournament is better than March Madness. Because in March Madness you watch, because if UMBC catches Virginia on a day that Virginia can't find the ocean from a boat with the basketball, they're done. That's it. They go home, season over. It does not matter what they accomplished. In baseball, if Vanderbilt goes out there and they have an awful craptastic day and they lose to Wright State, who? They have a chance to come back the next day, and they got an uphill hill to climb. An uphill hill, which is a hill.
Well, that's like 2 hills. I mean, so.
They've got an uphill journey to get back to the regional final, but they can earn that way back. It's punished for it, but they can earn it back. Can't do that in basketball. That, to me, is why when a Vanderbilt, the number 1 national seed in college baseball, loses in their regional, it is way more compelling and interesting than when Virginia loses in round 1 of the NCAA tournament. It's way more interesting to me, way more compelling. All right, we're going to talk college baseball a little bit over 2 hours from now. John Blau with the Post and Courier will join us. We'll break down what went wrong for Clemson as they are bounced from their own regional. We'll talk some NBA Finals. They're set up, Stanley Cup Finals as well. We got a show. Don't go anywhere. Rob, Lonzo, you. The Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate. Sticky?
I am still sick. What's up, Stream? Good morning, people. Welcome in. Good to have you. Happy Monday. Happy as a Monday can be. So Rob's a month behind. I mean, it's not really that surprising.
Oh, God.
I mean,
Son of a gun.
I'd rather not do May over again. May was not good for me health-wise, so.
Hang on, Kirby. I'll record you next segment. Go change 7 dates in the stream.
According to the thing where Paul Feinbaum looks like he's afraid that Kirby Smart's going to smack him because he leans the entire time. I don't know if you noticed that. He leans away from him. Feinbaum does the entire time.
He's always been like that, though. Like, and I get it because, like, we have guests in and I kind of do it, too. And I think it's more of like I want to show interest, but I can't, like, turn my body to you because I have a camera pointed at me. I'm going to give him credit, which is not something I do with Paul Feinbaum. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. 844-326-3663 is the number to be a part of the radio broadcast this morning. I have been dealing with a bit of an existential crisis as of late because I am coming to the realization that things are changing and they are out of my control. And no, I am not talking about my own body. I'm fine. Shut up. I am talking about my television screens. I have had to, in the past 2 weeks, say goodbye to 2 television shows that have been remarkably important to me. ESPN's Around the Horn and Inside the NBA on TNT. Tony Reali and the gang said farewell a week and a half-ish or so ago. And Inside the NBA on TNT signed off the other day when the end of the Eastern Conference Finals came to pass.
We're sad, but I'm proud to say for the last time, thanks for watching us. It's the NBA on TNT.
Before we go, guys, let's get a mic drop.
Shaq, Ernie, Chuck, and Kenny saying farewell from TNT for the last time. They'll be moving over to ESPN. It is largely assumed the same cast and crew will just be brought over there. Now, I do not know if they will be bringing their production crew with them, their directors with them,
By the way,
etc.
Ernie said that they would be bringing their production crew.
I'm glad to hear it. Because what I do not want is for that show to change its character or dynamic at all. I don't want that. I don't want Shaq and Chuck to have to play nice with each other. I don't want Kenny to have to stop being the instigator. I don't want Ernie to keep his street cred off the camera. Like, I want that show to still be that show.
What is your belief? What's the percentage of belief that you think it's going to remain the way it is?
I don't know that I have one. It is not a belief. I will acknowledge that I do my best to tell people, don't act out of fear. Don't panic out of fear. Fearing something, especially something out of your control, is not a wonderful way to live your life. Living in fear of things or people or situations or circumstances that are different than you, living in that fear is a bad way to live your life. Especially when you really don't know if that thing is true or not. You should base your entire system of action and activity on things that you know to be true or false, not things that you believe to be true or false. But I will acknowledge that I am acting on fear out of this. Fear that show is going to change. And my fear is predicated on the same system of beliefs that I have been telling you all I judge my views, my paradigm on college football with. The understanding and acknowledgement that what we want, what we like, what we enjoy is in most situations where something is worth multiple zeros on a paycheck to people, irrelevant. What you like, want, enjoy is irrelevant to most figures who make 7, 8, 9-figure paychecks off of a thing. There is only one thing that drives their decision making, and that is the bottom dollar. How do I know that? Both of these TV shows. The reason that Inside the NBA on TNT is leaving TNT is not because it's a bad product, is not because it's stale, is not because it is bad. Quite the opposite. In fact, I would make the argument, and one of the reasons that I love Inside the NBA on TNT is that it has been for years now, and I am not blowing smoke. I don't know Ernie, Chuck, Shaq, or Kenny, or their production staff, who do a fabulous job. I don't know. I got no reason to kiss butt to them. The reason that this show is important to me, has mattered to me, is because, and I mean this, it's the only NBA show worth watching on TV. I mean it. I'm going to say this as respectfully as possible, though that's not very. ESPN's NBA coverage is not worth watching outside of the games themselves. And even some of the games themselves are not great. But ESPN's coverage of the NBA outside of games is not worth watching. It is a bunch of hot take artists and Kendrick Perkins, who's not even really a hot take artist. He's just kind of there to me. With all due respect to K-Perk, just not my guy. So when you are taking this crew, and I mean this, over the past probably a dozen years, the only crew that I go, I got to tune in and see what the boys have to say tonight. There are some good personalities on ESPN. Malika Andrews, when she talks NBA, knows her stuff. Mina Kimes, I think, does a good job when she crosses over into the NBA. But there's also a lot of, if I got to listen to Stephen A. Smith scream one more time about the Knicks, I'm done. I'm out. And so the fear that I act on here is that this crew, which has created this broadcast that, to me, is the only NBA coverage show that is worth watching. And then you add the fact that, to me, TNT does a better job of their in-game broadcast than any other outlet covering the NBA. When you take that and you move it exclusively to ESPN, which is only there so that the folks on ESPN can, as they have done with college football, as they, I'm going to call the shot, will do at some point with the NFL down the line, with the exception of where the sports entities allow streaming services to pick up individual products. I watched the NASCAR race at Nashville on Amazon Prime last night. Y'all, it was really good. It was right. I stayed up watching. Well, I had the baseball games on the big TV, but I had the Prime race off on the side. I stayed up watching Dale Jr. and the crew do post-game breakdown of the Nashville race last night for like an hour. And it was good. Like, they actually talked about the race. They didn't go, all right, we're going to send it up now to so-and-so who's going to talk about, this person's got their, their baby up there. Let's go look at the baby. No, I don't care about the baby. Talk to me about the race. What happened? How did Ryan Blaney win his first race since last November? The man's been inside the top 5, it feels like, every race all year, could not find a checkered. Last night, not only did he win it, but he outran Carson Hocevar, who had a great Carson Hocevar car last night, beat him by 3 seconds. How did that happen in a race that was very competitive until it wasn't? And they did a fantastic job, I thought, of breaking that down with knowledge, intimate knowledge of the sport that even I, a guy who knows NASCAR, could not keep up with. Great product, great showing. So
629, I don't care about the baby.
I don't care about your baby. I care about I did not tune in to the babies hour. I tuned in to NASCAR. I want to watch NASCAR. Stop showing me the driver's babies. I don't care. Show me the car, show me the inspections, show me the lap times. That's all I care about. Enjoy the promo. So, when it comes to this show, Inside the NBA on TNT, and what they have done in making me care about basketball, but also being entertaining, I could watch Kenny pancake Shaq into a Christmas tree. Like, I'm at the point now where I might just like loop that on a video, and I'm going to do Christmas Eve, like Christmas night countdown, like a New Year's Eve countdown, except instead of a ball dropping down to some big numbers, it's Shaq getting canned into a tree. I love it. They've provided these moments of entertainment, but when the boys talk hoops, they talk hoops. They talk it well. They break it down well. And the tech they've involved. Have you seen the wall where Kenny goes behind the wall and then he's like 3D hologram projected onto the court? And he could like walk around the video from the game, stop it, pause it, but he's like on the court. He can like walk around the player. It's incredible. I to this day have no idea how it works. Now I'm a big dummy, so like that makes sense, but it's interesting. It's entertaining. This show is the only basketball show for years now that I've said, if I got to catch up on what happened in the association tonight, I got to go to Inside the NBA on TNT. They're the only ones who actually break it down basketball. The interview that Chuck did with Karl Anthony Towns after the Knicks won Game 5 over the Pacers was one of the best interviews I've seen, because Chuck, who treated Cat with a measure of respect and dignity that I appreciated, while also saying, hey, bro, why do you keep getting these stupid fouls? Why do you keep doing that? You're hurting your team, and making Cat give a genuine answer that I do not think a journalist at a post-game press conference could get out of him, right? If a journalist in the post-game press would say, Cat, you're getting stupid fouls, I think it would make sense that Cat would fire back with a athlete cliche in that moment. But when he talks to Chuck Barkley, and Chuck says, hey, man, here's this thing that I, as a living legend of basketball, there is one benefit, and I will give you this. You guys know how I felt for a long time about the fact that TV opportunities are going away from people like me, who have put years and years and years into sharpening themselves as a broadcaster, because it always seems like just get a former athlete. And there's a lot of really bad ones out there, but there are some elements that only a former athlete can get, and only a guy like Chuck could get an answer like that out of Cat. So they made this show must-watch TV from a lot of different angles, and my fear is they send it over to ESPN, and ESPN says, no, we don't need genuinely good studio broadcasts breaking down the games. We need hot takes. Because right now, everything on ESPN is devolved into hot takes. Everything. Name me a show that's not hot take. The only answer until a week and a half ago was Around the Horn. Around the Horn was the only not hot take show that network had. And what happened to Around the Horn? Tony Reali and the boys said goodbye a week and a half ago. I'm not saying there were never hot take artists on Around the Horn, but the show was not a hot take show. Tune into ESPN's morning show this morning. $5 says there's a LeBron segment. $5 says there's a Cowboys segment. Why? So they can hot take those teams, get a bunch of reactions. And granted, it's on us because we keep falling. It's on y'all because you keep falling for it. It ain't on me. But that's what they've done to sports broadcasting, by and large, with all due respect. That's not what Inside the NBA on TNT has been. So my fear is that they're going to take that show, move it to ESPN, and then force them to become a hotty-takey show. And if it becomes a hot take show, I got to get out. And that's a bummer, because I don't know where else to go outside of a handful of interesting YouTube streamers. And I don't want to be a guy who goes, I'm watching some streams tonight. I want to watch good TV. Call me old-fashioned. Call me back after this break, because we got a segment to do. Rob Alonzo and you, The Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate. Kane, you are absolutely correct. In fact, I will go one step further. It's not even mute. If he does his little look at me, I'm wearing a suit walkout, I turn the channel, honestly. Or I'll take it off and put it on something else and find a different thing to watch, honestly. Speaking of watch, I finally got around to Brave New World last night. The wife and I finished it. It felt very made-for-TV movie to me.
Well, they gave the whole thing away in the trailer, so.
For sure, and that didn't help. Like, I knew where we were going. But also, like, just the production value didn't feel there for me. Okay. And maybe it's just me. Like, I acknowledge I may be in a minority here, but I thought Brave New World looked it looked more like what I would have expected a Marvel Netflix TV show to look like than a full-scale production movie. And for, I assume, a major chunk of Marvel fans who did not see Falcon Winter Soldier and the transition of Sam to Cap, that being their first introduction to Sam as Captain, I thought he deserved like a genuinely great production movie, and it felt poorly acted in a lot of scenes.
The best part of the whole movie was the minute or so when Bucky and he were together.
Completely agreed. That was I said to Courtney.
That's the kind of magic that should have been the entire movie.
The whole movie.
Yeah. When he said
those two shows should have been.
Writers did that, didn't they?
Falcon Winter Soldier should have been the movie. Captain America Brave New World should have been the TV show. That's how I felt about it. I have to see if I have another battery because my headset batteries are going out.
2 minutes. I don't really watch ESPN that much anymore, except for maybe I will watch SportsCenter in the morning. And sometimes game day. Usually just for the picks. I've probably watched it more since McAfee's been on there, though.
Can't find one. Hope Chris gets here soon. Actually, I don't know if he has any because he asked me to borrow one a week ago.
His car's here.
Is it? Oh, get it next break. I think I can make it to the top.
Could just text him, saying, It's the
Plus, I know where they are, so I'll just go.
Dude, it's 6:38. He's not.
It's on him.
No, what I'm saying is he don't have that much going on. He's in the organizational phase right now. Well, all astronauts are like 5'2" and weigh like 95 pounds, so probably.
I read, this is an astronaut thing. Sorry, I'm not totally going a different direction. I read a thing the other day about the history of astronauts using the bathroom in space and the tech upgrades that they've had in astronaut waste removal. And it's super fascinating. Because there was this long thing going around for a long time about part of the reason that there weren't female astronauts earlier in the space program was because waste removal for females would have been harder than it was for men. And it turned out to be easier than it was for men. And one of the reasons why was because the first removal system was I don't think this is bad, like a condom-like device that you strapped over your part, and it had a tube that came out of it. And the problem was when they set this thing up, it came in small, medium, and large, and all the astronauts asked for large, and none of them needed a large. So they had to, in order to get the astronauts to use the right name, change the sizes to like enormous or impressive, enormous, and holy crap. Like those were the technical names of the sizes for these things. So the astronauts would feel better about asking for enormous and not small. The New York Knicks eliminated by the Indiana Pacers over the weekend, so I said it that way for Lonzo. Lonzo came in this morning and told me that he would be still sick, but the tears of Knicks fans have rejuvenated him.
They did. They
over
have
the last
those
couple
kind
of
of
days.
powers. They do.
Yeah. The Knicks eliminated by the Pacers, so we have our NBA Finals set. It is the Oklahoma City Thunder out of the West. It is the Indiana Pacers out of the East. And I will tell you two things. Number one, that we are going to have an actually have an early visit this week. Probably, no, we won't. We're good because the first game is on Thursday. I was going to say, I'm going to try to bump Mario up earlier in the week to talk NBA Finals. But game one of the Stanley Cup is on Wednesday. Game one of the NBA Finals is on Thursday, so we will not. We'll have Mario in his regularly scheduled time on Thursday morning to talk NBA. Mario Heron of the BetMGM Network joins us weekly on Thursdays at 9 a.m. to talk basketball. We will do that again this Thursday. That being said, what I wanted to get to is this. I think the Pacers can. I'm not saying can win this series. Las Vegas.
That's the soundtrack.
Oh, that's me. That's the autoplay from a website that I will now never visit again. Who decided that more important than reading the article I came to their website to read about the NBA Finals, instead decided I needed an autoplay advertisement from a Tex-Mex fast food
I was
joint.
going to say, if you feel hungry for Mexican food, now you know why.
I mean, I do.
There's one right over there, by the way.
Let's be real. Like, I could eat Mexican squarely 7 out of 10 meals and be totally happy with it.
Yeah, me too.
Totally happy with it. So, the Oklahoma City Thunder opened in the NBA Finals as a minus 750 favorite to win this series. The Pacers opened as a plus 525, better than 5-1. Bet a hundo, win $500 plus back. Does that feel like a wonky number to anybody but me? Or are y'all all convinced that the Thunder are rolling this thing in 5 max? Because that's what Vegas says.
Well, I mean, not only are a lot of people convinced, including your boy, the overnight guy, the Knicks guy, who got
Patty B,
who was wrong on every single game because he rooted for the Knicks, and then says that OKC's gonna whip their butts. Like, okay, all right, yeah, I don't believe you, and I don't believe it's going to be a sweep. OKC may ultimately win the whole thing, but I don't think it's a sweep. Do you?
I do not think it is a sweep. Not only do I not think it is a sweep. Last night, I got the call from our buddy, Sean Levine, the Sports Machine, who is a nationally syndicated host on the Infinity Sports Network as well. Old Sean Boy called me, said, I need somebody to light up my life. Can you come on the radio show with me today? And I said, yeah. What am I doing? It's Sunday Funny. What am I doing? Spending it with my family?
My life.
It was very nice. I felt very flattered. I said, yes, Sean Levine, I'm going to stand up and stop watching this series of wonderful documentaries and Marvel movies I've been watching with my wife all day to come talk about basketball with you.
Just say no.
No, I didn't do that.
Just say no.
Are you telling me to say no to spreading my infectious energy across America? No. The world needs me. And I stood up and provided. Like Cap himself.
I don't believe that you're capable of saying no, but I mean, that's fine. You got to talk about
I am
on national
capable.
radio.
I refuse to do it.
Okay.
So Sean Levine brings me on. And he said, Rob Brown, minus 750. Go the Oklahoma City Thunder to win this game. Is there any chance the Pacers win? And I said, yes. In fact, I have a series to compare it to. Not a basketball series, a hockey series, but a series I want to compare it to. And that series is the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes from the last round of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Because I feel the same way about the Pacers that I felt about the Canes coming into that. Are they underdogs? Yes. Are they justifiable underdogs? Yes. Does it make sense that they are underdogs? Yes. Does it make sense they're big underdogs? Yeah, it kind of does. But there are a couple of things that have me believing, and perhaps I shall be wrong, and I'll take my crow medium rare. But there are a couple of things that have me interested in the Pacers as a plus 525 underdog. Here are those things. Number one, and this is not a new take, but it is a relevant take to this.
By the way, he said new, not nude. It sounded like he said nude take, but it was new. It was nude.
I did do my interview with Sean Levine in my boxers last night.
Okay, that's still not nude.
I let him know, too. I wasn't shy about it. This is not a new take, nor is it a nude take, as I am at work and Lonzo is HR. So the take is this. I don't think the Minnesota Timberwolves were as good as they have gotten credit for being. I think they're good. I don't think they're as good as they've gotten credit for being. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves, because they beat the Lakers, I think a lot of people kind of got suckered in. Because, and for the record, I was one of them. I just want to be honest about it. I was one of them. I really liked the Lakers. I said, yo, LeBron and Luka with a combo, with a duo. And I allowed them to talk me out of a position I've held for a very long time, which is if you don't have at least a top level 5, you can't win. You can't. And the Lakers did not have that. That was the whole thing about them trying to trade for what was his name, Mark Andrews up out of Charlotte, get a 7-footer down there, give them a guy to lean off of. Because all that happened was the Timberwolves said, all right, you don't have a 5. We have Rudy Gobert. And the Lakers made Rudy Gobert look like friggin' prime Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was insane. They made Rudy Gobert offensively look like Shaq. He had 27-point games in that. No world should Rudy Gobert have a 27-point game. He don't got that in the bag. But he did in that series. But because it was Luka and LeBron, and because everybody, and myself included, I acknowledge the night that Luka got traded to the Lakers, I immediately said, I'll bet the Lakers to the NBA Finals. Because I said, all right, Luka gets to run the position he's most comfortable at, which is an attacking point. LeBron gets to move back to the outside. He doesn't have to be a 1-4 hybrid. He can go to the true 3, true 4, whatever one he wants to play, whatever one he's better suited for. Doesn't matter. And had I just stuck with the Rob Brown philosophy, if you don't have a top 5-5, you can't win this thing, then I would have called Lakers in 5, which is what happened. I think the Timberwolves were made to look better than they actually are by the Lakers, who everybody fell in love with because of the Luka trade, but we all overlooked their deficiencies. Then they go to the 4-1 win over the Warriors. Now, everybody thought the Warriors got rejuvenated when they went and they got playoff Jimmy. And don't get me wrong, I fell for that too. Love playoff Jimmy. Except for Jimmy let his true colors shine. When Steph Curry went down, because he had that injury. When Steph went down and they said, yo, you're not getting back till game 6. After he got hurt in game 2? They said he's not coming back till game 6. Jimmy Butler became the guy at Golden State, and Jimmy Butler ain't the guy. I used to get in legit debates with Ryan Horvat, who said his philosophy on Jimmy Buckets has been for a very long time. I do not think Jimmy Butler will ever be the best player on a championship team. I think he'll be on championship teams, but I don't think he'll ever be the best player on one. He had a chance to be the best player on a championship team because a lot of us said, oh, maybe the Warriors are the team coming out of the West. Timberwolves smoked them, but again, they did it with no Steph Curry and a Golden State team that was reliant on Draymond Green and the 7, 8, 9 points he was giving them a night. I think the Timberwolves got made to look better by a depleted and aging Golden State Warriors team. And so they roll up to the Thunder. Everybody's like, oh, Ant-Man Edwards. And I love Anthony Edwards. I think Ant-Man Edwards can be face of the league. I'll throw him out. I don't want to get into that discussion again, but I will. I think Ant-Man Edwards absolutely has face of the league talent. Here's the problem. Oklahoma City is a very good defensive team. Very good defense. Top 2 defensive team in the league. And so what they do, we're going to take Anthony Edwards away from you. Somebody else has got to be this guy. Somebody else is going to have to do it. It ain't Rudy Gobert, because Oklahoma City's got a Thunder who got a center, The Thunder got a player in Chet Holmgren who is not only getting better game by game, but is willing to get up under the basket and throw the body around a little bit, play a little defense. Now all of a sudden, Rudy Gobert is not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar anymore. And when Rudy Gobert goes away, and they said, who else from the Thunder is going to get it done? Because we are not letting Ant do it. They were picking Ant up at the half court, and if Ant beat a dude, they just said, roll the defense to wherever Anthony Edwards goes. So every time Ant got away from one defender, there was another top 25 NBA defender waiting for him. Didn't matter where he went. There was always another top 25 defender waiting for him. And by the time we got to game 3 in that series, you could see the exhaustion on the face of Anthony Edwards, and nobody else was able to give him the help that he needed. So I don't think the Timberwolves were as good as we thought they were. I think they made the Thunder look even better. Everybody said, oh, it's a 4-1 series win over the Timberwolves. Like, how great are the Thunder? The answer is they are a great basketball team. But I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, who knocked off the Grizzlies, the only team in the West that I said should not be in these playoffs, knocked off the Nuggets, who, Nikola Jokic is a dog. Jamal Murray's a closer, but that team ain't the Denver Nuggets team from a couple of years ago. Knocked off the Nuggets, and by the way, took them all 7 games to do it, right? Like, that series tells me more about the Thunder, I think, than the finals against the Timberwolves. Then they go 4-1 over the Timberwolves, a team that took down a depleted Lakers team, a depleted Warriors team, an aging Warriors team. I think the Thunder are very good. I don't think that they are this absolute steamrolling wrecking ball that they've been made out to be. On the flip side, the Heat got swept by the Cavaliers. Cavaliers are a good basketball team. The Pacers beat them 4-1. I would say, and maybe this is just me, great one, disagree if you want to. The Pacers 4-1 series victory over the Cavaliers, to me, was more impressive than any series that the Thunder have won so far in these playoffs.
Oh, absolutely, because how good Cleveland was coming up. Regular season.
Number 1 seed in the East.
Yeah.
Best record.
And they looked like they were going to come into the playoffs, and they were strong. They weren't overly injured or anything like that at first, and yeah.
Yeah. To me, the win by the Pacers over, and by the way, over the Bucks too. Good win over Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks. But the win over the Pacers to me, or over the Cavs to me, was maybe based on taking the injuries into consideration and all that. I mean it. I think the 4-1 victory over the Cavaliers might be the most impressive series victory of any series victory in these playoffs. I think it's more impressive than Thunder Nuggets, more impressive than Timberwolves Warriors, more impressive than Thunder Timberwolves, more impressive than Knicks Celtics, because after Jason Tatum went down, the Celtics weren't the Celtics anymore. And the only one I would say maybe more impressive is Pacers taking down the Knicks in 6. Like, that's impressive because the Knicks are a good basketball team. I think the Pacers have had a tougher road to get here, and they have not taken more than 6 to win a series. And honestly, the Knicks are probably lucky it got to 6. I think the Pacers have faced a tougher road to get here, played better opponents, and played better against them than the Thunder have at any point. So I'm not saying the Pacers are going to win this series because the Thunder are a very good team. But I'm saying the folks that have them priced at minus 750 to win the series, the folks that I've heard nationally saying Thunder in 4, maybe gentlemen's sweep, I think you might be surprised. I think this could be Thunder in 6. I think it could be Thunder in 7. I'm going to keep it a buck. I think it could be Pacers in 6. Because I do think they have to win it in Indiana. If it's a Game 7 in OKC, I don't think they're winning a Game 7 in OKC. That place is going to be unglued. I don't know. Home court advantage matters in the NBA, right? Like, it just does. When you have in Indiana, I don't want to give Mario credit for anything, but the Indiana Pacer Fieldhouse has been unglued. But so is the Thunder. So is the Thunder. The Fieldhouse at OKC has been unbelievable. So I think it's got to be 1 in 6 if it's going to be by the Pacers. But I do think they can win this series. It is going to come down to one matchup for me. And it's not SGA versus Tyrese Halliburton. I said this to Sean Levine last night, too. Halliburton keeps ending games with like 2021. They're like, how are you going to keep up with SGA when he's scoring 34? The answer is Tyrese ends games with 2021 and 14, 15, 16 assists. And when he gets to 14, 15, 16 assists, if we turn those assists into points, Tyrese is giving you 50 points a game in the wins. So that matchup's good to me. It's going to come down to Miles Turner versus Chet Holmgren in the middle. Can Miles do to Chet what he did to Big Cat? Yeah, you're going to get your 20, but you're not getting 15 rebounds, 16 rebounds. You're getting 6 or 7. You can get your 22 points, but you're not getting 8 assists, 9 assists out of the paint. You're getting 3 or 4. And if he can, I think the Pacers can win this series. I'm not saying I'm picking them. I got a couple of days to determine that, but they can stop it. Start it, Lonzo. And by that, I mean your award-winning sports flash.
Let's get it started in here. The number 1 national seed has been bounced from the college baseball national championship tournament as Vanderbilt was eliminated by Wright State yesterday. Texas, the number 2 seed, was eliminated by UTSA, whatever that is, in the regional final. The Clemson Tigers were bounced as well, eliminated by Kentucky in a 16-4 loss. In golf, Scottie Scheffler dominated the field at the Memorial. Scheffler fired a 2-under-70 on Sunday and was the only player to break par all 4 days. Scheffler joins Tiger Woods as the only player to win the Memorial in consecutive years and recorded just 1 bogey across the final 40 holes. The Atlanta Braves dropped a 3-1 decision at home to the Red Sox yesterday. Bryce Elder called up just days earlier to replace A.J. Smith-Shaver after a confirmed UCL tear. Went 5.1 innings, giving up 6 hits and 3 earned runs, striking out 4. Atlanta had just 5 hits, going 1 for 6 with runners on scoring position. Turn your mic off, Rob.
Fun sports stat of the day. In the month of May, the Colorado Rockies won the same amount of games as Scotty Scheffler won golf tournaments. 3. That's incredible. Jacob, I have not given my opinion on the Zion thing. And to be honest with you, it's when someone, I will say this, and I believe I can say this with true honesty. When someone on one of my teams does something like this, I treat them the exact same way as I do if they are on someone else's team. And that is, it is difficult to comment until investigations have come out, until stories have come out, until people dive into it. Not like media, like investigators, like the cops dive into it. There is a history between Zion and this woman. She has been in a relationship on again, off again with Zion. She is a social media influencer. So those are things that a lot of people believe kind of damage her story. On the flip side, that does not mean she should not be listened to. She should not be heard out. Her story should not be investigated, checked out, et cetera, et cetera. If it turns out that Zion did what she is accusing him of, then I want him gone. I do not want him on my team. I do not want him in the league. At the same time, just like anybody else accused of anything, he has the right to have his side of the story heard. He has the right to allow an investigation to play out as well. The unfortunate part with stories like this one is that very often it does indeed devolve to a he said, she said, and it basically comes down to, can either party bring receipts to the table? Can either party bring text messages, recordings, whatever, that prove that their side of the story is true and accurate? And I don't know if that's going to be the case. So as of right now, my stance on it, Jacob, and this is the same as if Zion played for any other team or any other player in any other sport, for me, it feels that the correct course of action is not to comment on it. But that's just me.
QC in the first break.
10-4. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate Rob Brown, the returning Lonzo, back with us. Trumpets blaring, banners unfurled as he has made his return to us. The prodigal son.
No rose petals. Going to have a talk with someone about that, though.
I didn't know if you wanted me to like sprinkle them on the floor in a path from your desk to the chair over there.
Although maybe you were thinking about my well-being because rose petals, the smell might have, I'm not completely well yet. So never mind. Thank you.
Say lovingly, Lonzo on Thursday looked like he was, didn't look like death. He looked like death was like grabbing him by the throat and shaking him around. So we're glad you're back. It was concerning to say the least, but he is back, which means the show's better. We have got a lot going on today. Coming up in about an hour and 40 minutes from right now, John Blau covers the Clemson Tigers for the Post and Courier. John Blau will join us. We will ask what the hell went wrong in the Clemson Regional. Now, in fairness, West Virginia, Kentucky, very good baseball teams. Very good baseball teams. That's what regionals are. You can be the number one seed in the country, Vanderbilt, and still end up losing games because everybody who makes it to the regional is a very good baseball team. And much like with the March Madness tournament, there are some damn good mid-major teams. And even more so than the March Madness tournament, college baseball is so big and so spread out, there is so much parity that some of those teams are absolutely better than some regional teams from Power 4 conferences. They just never get put on display. If a college basketball mid-major starts going on a run, as there's 30 whatever games, they start going on a run, they kind of start picking up national attention. If Wright State starts going on a run, most of us don't have the bandwidth to look at mid-major baseball from the other side of the continent and go, okay, are they a threat to Vanderbilt? Like, most of us start to find out about who these regional threats are about a week and a half, 2 weeks out from the regionals when we start really evaluating everybody. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment because your regional results are a part of a segment that we do every day at this time at 7 o'clock in the morning. And that is the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet, the top 3 sports stories you need to know, because at some point in the next 58-ish minutes, you're going to get into the office, sit down in that chair, do all of your work responsibilities, air quote, and then you're going to take that first break. You know, those 4 or 5 smoke breaks throughout the day that keep your day rolling, that keep you from, like, just walking into the boss's office, telling him where he can stick it and walking out. And if you're going to talk sports with your coworkers to keep your sanity in check at the office, you got to know what's going on. And if you need to know what's going on, worry not. Lonzo and I do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
"That doesn't work for me, brother."
and before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports with your friends, family, coworkers, or the dog, whoever you spend your workday mornings with. When you do, this is what you will be talking about. Let us dive headfirst in to item number 1. Speaking of those baseball regionals, the regional round of the NCAA Baseball National Championship Tournament will start today. The final round, the opening round will get its finality with a number of regional championships being hosted around the country. Here are the results from the weekend. The number 1 seed in all of America, the Vanderbilt Commodores, were eliminated from their own regional. They opened with a 4-3 win over Wright State, whereas Louisville took down Eastern Tennessee State in game number 2 on Saturday. Wright State eliminated ETSU. Louisville got Vanderbilt 3-2. That set up a Wright State-Vanderbilt elimination game yesterday in the early bracket, and Wright State got their revenge. 5-4 winners over the doors. The number 1 team in America sent packing. However, having to play 2 games in one day proved to be too much for Wright State as wins 6-0 and advances to the Supers. Hattiesburg, where the Miami Hurricanes knocked off Alabama 5-3 in the opener. Columbia then took down Southern Miss. Southern Miss knocked off Alabama in game 2. The Tide roll back to Tuscaloosa without a win in the regional. Eliminated on Saturday. Miami would then smoke Columbia 14-1. Columbia would then be eliminated by Southern Miss yesterday. In the opening bracket game, Southern Miss would then go on to down Miami 17-6, and the Golden Eagles will face off with the Canes tonight at 9 p.m. Winner to the Supers. In Tallahassee, Florida, Florida State knocked off Bethune-Cookman. Mississippi State beat Northeastern on Friday. That led to a losers bracket matchup between Northeastern and BCU. Bethune-Cookman was eliminated. Florida State would then down Mississippi State 10-3. That set up a Mississippi State Northeastern elimination game. The Bulldogs get out of that one 3-2, but fall last night to the Noles, who had a late innings rally to knock off the Dogs 5-2. Florida State on to the Super Regionals. In Corvallis, we will play one more game today. Southern Cal knocked off TCU. St. Mary's over Oregon State. Oregon State would then eliminate TCU on Saturday. Southern Cal would knock off St. Mary's in the winner's bracket game to make it to the regional finals. Oregon State dropped 20 on St. Mary's to eliminate them, then 14 on Southern Cal to hand them their first loss. An elimination game tonight at 6 o'clock p.m. In Chapel Hill, North Carolina blanked Holy Cross 4-0. Oklahoma 7-4 over Nebraska. Nebraska would then eliminate Holy Cross in the Saturday early day. North Carolina would move into the regional championship with a win over Oklahoma. Oklahoma then beat Nebraska 17-1 and then knocked off North Carolina in the championship game 1 last night, 9-5. UNC v. Oklahoma at 3 o'clock today with elimination on the line. In Eugene, Arizona knocked off Cal Poly. Utah Valley took down number 12 Oregon. Cal Poly would then blank Oregon and eliminate the Ducks from their own regional. They did not win a game. See, Clemson, you are not alone. Arizona would then take down Utah Valley, set up a Cal Poly Utah Valley elimination day yesterday morning. Utah Valley bounced Arizona, then beat Cal Poly 14-0 to advance to the Supers. In Conway, ECU took down Florida. Coastal took down Fairfield. Florida then won 17-2 over Fairfield. Coastal took down ECU. ECU would then eliminate Florida yesterday in the early bracket. Coastal Carolina knocked off ECU, and Coastal Carolina moves to the Supers. Well done, Chanticleers. Down in Auburn, Stetson, the Hatters, knocked off NC State. Auburn then down Central Connecticut. NC State would eliminate Central Connecticut in Game 3. Auburn would bounce Stetson 8-5 in the second game. NC State then eliminated Stetson on Sunday and take on Auburn in the championship game. Auburn needed one, took one, 11-1 over the Wolfpack. Auburn on to the Super Regionals. The Texas Longhorns were the number 2 team in the country, hosting their regional in Austin. They beat Houston Christian. UTSA then beat Kansas State. Kansas State would eliminate HCU. UTSA would down the number 2 team, Texas, 2-7. Texas would then eliminate Kansas State on Sunday, but UTSA, the road runners, road running all over the horns. It just means more to UTSA, who advances to the Super Regionals over number 2 Texas. I won't give you all the other results because I know this is getting exhausting. UCLA beats Fresno State, Arizona State, and UC Irvine. They are on their way to the Supers. We had an interesting one in Oxford, Mississippi. Ole Miss would eliminate Western Kentucky. Ole Miss would then eliminate Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech would get eliminated on Sunday. That set up an Ole Miss-Murray State matchup last night. Ole Miss does get the win. We have a championship game between Ole Miss and Murray State tonight at 6. In Athens, Georgia put 20 up on Binghamton, but then would turn around and lose to Duke. Okie State would eliminate Binghamton on Saturday. That set up an OK State-Georgia elimination game, and the Dogs bounced from their own regional. Duke would then knock off the Cowboys last night in a 3-2 pitchers battle. Duke onto the Supers. Out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we got another Monday nighter today. Rhode Island eliminated by Little Rock. DBU that would be eliminated by Little Rock as well. Little Rock then goes against the big dog LSU, and they get a 10-4 late inning win last night. So LSU v. Little Rock tonight at 9 o'clock. As we mentioned, Clemson bounced from their own regional. They did beat SC Upstate in a ball game on Friday. SC Upstate would be eliminated by Kentucky on Saturday. West Virginia would down Clemson 11-6. That led to a Kentucky-Clemson elimination game yesterday, and Kentucky brought it to the Tigers. 16-4, your final score. That set up a West Virginia-Kentucky final. How about a final score of 13-12? Almost heaven, West Virginia on to the Supers. We do have a championship game today between Tennessee and Wake Forest out of the Knoxville Regional. Wake Forest eliminated Cincinnati yesterday and then got Tennessee in the nightcap, so they'll play again tonight. And then finally out of Fayetteville, Arkansas, the Arkansas Razorbacks do win their regional. They down North Dakota State. They then watch North Dakota State eliminate Kansas. Arkansas downs Creighton. Creighton then eliminates North Dakota State, and Arkansas gets Creighton last night 8-3. Our super regionals will conclude, our regionals will conclude today. Our super regionals will start on Friday. We will have some starting Friday, some Saturday, some ending Sunday, some on Monday. We will keep you up to date on those super regionals as we roll through. Let's get to item number 2. Deep breath after that one. Our NBA and Stanley Cup Finals are both slated to start this week. The NHL Stanley Cup Finals will start on Wednesday. We do have the Edmonton Oilers taking on the Florida Panthers in this one, and Vegas has got this one as an absolute dog fight. The Florida Panthers open as series favorites, but they open as series favorites at -110. Edmonton, an even money bet out of the gate, which means Vegas thinks this thing is going to be a 50-50 dog fight. Game number 1, again on Wednesday. It is going to open with the Edmonton Oilers favorited at the crib. They are -130. Florida +110 on the money line. On the opener, the over-under in that game is set at 6. We will do a Stanley Cup Finals preview with Rachel Dory of Betalytics a little bit later on in the week. Over in the National Basketball Association, the odds are out for the NBA Finals, which start on Thursday. The Oklahoma City Thunder are one of the biggest betting favorites in the past 2 decades. They open as -750 favorites over the Pacers. The Pacers open as a +525 underdog yesterday. Since the year of 2005, only the 2017-18 Golden State Warriors were longer favorites to win the NBA Finals. They opened at -1075 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Thunder opened as a 9-point favorite in Game 1 against the Pacers. That game, Oklahoma City is hosting on ABC at 8:30 p.m. The Thunder, of course, took care of the Timberwolves in 5. The Pacers took 6 to get by the Eastern Conference runners-up, the New York Knicks. The Pacers were 50-1 to win the NBA title as season openers. If they win, they would be the longest preseason long shot odds to win the title in 40 years. However, over the past 50 years, only 2 teams that were at least +200 underdogs to start the finals, the 03-04 Pistons, who were 5-1, and the 2018-19 Raptors at +230, went on to claim the Larry O'Brien, meaning the Pacers will have to overcome not just the Thunder, but history to get there. Let's wrap it up with item number 3. Like Thanos himself, Scotty Scheffler is inevitable. Scotty Scheffler won his 3rd out of the last 4 tournaments when he took down the Memorial yesterday, his 2nd straight year, making he and Tiger Woods the only 2 golfers in history to win the Memorial in back-to-back years. Scotty Scheffler also pulled off some other impressive feats this weekend. Number 1, the only player in the entire field to shoot below par all 4 rounds. Number 2, Scotty Scheffler in the final 40 holes of this tournament had 1 bogey. 1 bogey in 40 holes. Had plenty of opportunities, but kept knocking down ridiculous shots. Big windy day yesterday. Felt like a dress rehearsal for the U.S. Open. All he did was fire a 2 under 70 on a day where other players were having a very hard time even getting to par. Scheffler won for the 9th straight time After holding a 54-hole lead, Jack Nicklaus walked off the green with Scotty Scheffler, shook his hand, and simply said, "Well, you did it again." Yes, he did. Ladies and gentlemen, Scotty Scheffler is very good at golf. I mean, just very good at golf. I have said it before, and I've said it again. Maybe doesn't have the charisma of an Eldrick Tiger Woods. Maybe doesn't have the personal investment from the golf fans like a Rory McIlroy did at the Masters. Maybe doesn't have the unique look like a Ricky Fowler does. You know what Scotty Scheffler has? A driver, long irons, short irons, approach, and a putter. And that, at the end of the day, is all you need. I understand that Scotty Scheffler may not be the most compelling character on the golf course, ladies and gentlemen, but I also understand that if you're not watching this guy play golf and you are a golf fan, you are costing yourself watching a master at work. Scotty Scheffler remains the number one player in the world, will stay there for a very long time because the dude's won 3 out of 4, and he's getting better. You know what they say, Lonzo? Sometimes prison changes a man. And Prison Scotty is coming for everybody right now. What a freaking run Scotty's on right now.
You see what it did for Scotty? You see what it did for Dom? I mean,
I'm telling you. Do I need to go get arrested?
No, don't do that.
I mean, Dominic Mysterio becomes the hottest wrestler in WWE. Scotty Scheffler wins every bleeping golf tournament on the face of planet Earth right now. Like, maybe I need to go outside and, like, moon a car or something. Do I, like, it? Would I get picked up? Like, what if I just, like, steal a candy bar? If I go get arrested, am I going syndicated in 2 weeks?
First of all, don't do any of those things. Anyone who's listening, don't do any of those things.
I mean, Scotty, look what happened to Scotty Scheffler.
I know. Back in the day, you could moon people and not really get in trouble. Now it's bad. Don't do it. And you should never steal anything. So don't do that. You don't need to be arrested. You're gonna be fine.
But like, what if I get like a Rich Eisen contract out of it? I feel like I could pay my bail at that point, right?
Well, radio arrests.
Or do I have to get the contract and then get arrested?
I don't think radio arrests count because
they're usually boring as hell.
Well, they're usually a bit. And so, whatever force that makes people prosper after an actual arrest, we'll believe it's a bit, and it won't work for you.
I don't know, man. I'm watching Dom. I'm watching Scotty. I think the boys are onto something here. Maybe I just need, I wonder if the publicity from a fake arrest would happen. Are there any cops out there that would fake arrest me? Like, don't actually arrest me, but like fake arrest me. Let's get it on the news. Let's make it look good. I can go to the boss early and be like, hey, boss, listen, here's this fake thing that we're going to do. Don't fire me for it. I'm just trying to get famous. Are there any cops that would fake arrest me and not tell my boss so that, like, maybe we can go somewhere with this thing? I'm just saying. I like Jacob with the Office reference from Prison Scotty. That's a good one. All right, speaking of that's a good one, we got to take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, Heather Dinich was down covering the SEC spring meetings. As I said in a promo over the weekend, we all know the real juicy stuff from the spring meetings of these major conferences. They start to come out after the coaches get home, and they don't have to, like, look each other in the face. They can just start to, except Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin don't care. Lane Kiffin will say whatever. But for everybody else, they got to get home. Well, Heather Dinich was at the SEC spring meetings, and she had a little something to say about the possibility of that 5+11 playoff model. And the commissioner of the Big 12, he kind of called out the SEC and the Big 10 too. And it goes in the same vein. I'll tell you what he said and why you should care when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
QC.
All right, guys, quick live read. We're coming back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one Lonzo, and you. The SEC spring meetings took place down in beautiful Destin, Florida last weekend, and we got a lot of juicy stuff out of it. The tea was spilled throughout those meetings, and there were a lot of different points that developed. Some that I thought were, pretty obvious, some that I thought were more interesting than others. One of the ones that jumped out at me was on day one, Greg Sankey said that the SEC was not committed to any particular college football playoff model. And I came in here, and what I'm still apologizing for, said I thought Greg Sankey was full of crap. Granted, in a very shrewd business way, because if you say you're not committed to anything, then when you sit down at the negotiating table, you have not revealed your position. Therefore, you can ask for more and try to pull the rope over in your direction. So I thought it was a shrewd business move to be full of crap by Greg Sankey. Because, I thought, well, the SEC could theoretically, along with the Big Ten, sit down at that negotiating table on December 1st when the College Football Playoff Committee gets together and say, yeah, you offered us 4 at-large bids, and that's great, but hear us out. What if you gave us 5? Because, and this is true, I've seen the commercial, it just means more to us. So give us one more because, again, means more, we should get more. But then there was a conversation amongst the football coaches, and Greg Sankey came out the next day and said that the, maybe not consensus, but the majority of the Southeastern Conference college football coaches told him that they are actually in favor of the 5+11 model. That is, the 5 highest rated college football conference champions and then 11 at-large bids after that. Just the next 11 best teams across America invited to participate in a 16-team college football playoff field. By the way, you will notice in all of these conversations, not once did you hear anybody say, well, 5+11 unless we decide to stay at 12, because we're not. We're going to 16, and we're going to 16 not this season, but next. Blah, 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 blah. Heather Denich was down there. She was on the Paul Feinbaum show. Paul asked her what she had heard about the progression towards potentially a 5+11 model, or at least what it was in the wind that had this report gaining momentum.
Greg Sankey said yesterday that he believes that independent decisions can be made. So he said that he thinks that you can make a scheduling decision without knowing the playoff, although it's not ideal and the timeline is certainly not optimal. But you're 100% right, because multiple athletic directors went on the record yesterday. I asked Scott Strickland, can you get to a 9-game conference schedule without AQs and knowing the playoff? And he said, I can't, personally.
He'll be here in a minute. We'll ask him.
Yeah, you can ask him in a minute. But there's a definite tie-in for the athletic directors. The question is, can Greg Sankey get the athletic directors on the same page as the coaches? And can everyone get on the same page with a 5+11 model? Because I can tell you this, there's support outside of the SEC for 5+11. Brett Yormark told me today, it's been my first choice all along. I presented it in Charlotte. I've talked to other conference commissioners throughout the league who have said, hey, this would be great. It's a good alternative. We love it.
So, what I said last week, according to Heather Denich, appears to be true. And it is this. It makes sense that the college football coaches would want to go 5+11. Because even though they have to be business managers now as much as they have to be college football coaches, at the same time, I do think that, and this is just my personal and subjective feeling from covering this sport for 17 years and having conversations with coaches at every level of this game. I think at the end of the day, even though they have to be business managers nowadays, college football coaches are sports guys, right? Like they're football lovers. They want to compete and they want to win on the field. They understand that to win on the field, now they have to win off the field too. There's some comments from Kirby Smart that we're going to get to a little bit later on in the show that I think go in that direction. But I think most college football coaches, by and large, they want to win on the field. They just know they got to win off of it now too. So to me, it is completely unsurprising and unshocking that coaches would want to go to 5+11. plus 11. And the reason why would be because, hey, we still get that little nod, that special treatment if we win the conference, even if it is the most difficult conference to win, the SEC or the Big Ten, whoever it might be that year. We still get the little nod, the little nudge, the little thanks for what you did out here. But if we go out there and we win a bunch of games, we can still bust it, get some dubs, and move in. And now strength of schedule feels like it matters a little bit more. Conference championship games retain their importance. This was a big selling point for me. One of the reasons, because I did get asked on Friday during the show on the text line, why do you think that conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten are willing to admit this, or are willing to, because you'd think the ADs, the conference commissioners of the big conferences, specifically the Big Two, maybe the ACC and Big 12 to a lesser extent. Why do you think that they would want to acknowledge the 5+11 is in play? And the answer to me is because the conference championship games are big-time moneymakers for the conferences, even the smaller ones. Conference championship games are big-time moneymakers. They got good TV contracts that stand alone. You get all the gate, all the revenue, all the merch. You got people, if it matters, coming from around the country to be there for one football game. It's all centered on you. That attention in whatever city you play in is all centered on you. It's a moneymaker. And so the conferences wanted to find a way to make conference championship games seem feel important still. And the thought was, if we do a true conference championship game and then 2 play-in games over here, we are now spreading out money across games. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, who knows? I don't think we could know until it happens. You can have some analysts forecast it. But at the end of the day, there's no way to know. Would 3 games make more money than having like a crown jewel? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe, maybe not. But it makes conference championship games important. You can sell them on TV for more money, et cetera, et cetera. For the coaches, I think they just want to be able to play their way in. For the conferences, I think they would want to have a way to make sure their conference championship games remain their crown jewel. And I think that's the reason that Greg Sankey was willing to come out and say, hey, this is what the coaches want, and we're going to look into it. Now, you heard Heather Dinich say in that clip there as well, they still have to talk the ADs into it. And the reason why is, as we have mentioned, if you are an AD in a Southeastern Conference school, a team like South Carolina very well could have gone to the playoff last year. And if there was a 4AQ system in play. Because remember, we had that log jam of teams after the top, 2 or 3. We had a log jam of teams, but you could at least put yourself into that log jam and maybe win the thing. I do have another clip from Greg Sankey. It is about the 8 or 9 conference schedule matter. We'll come to that later in the show. But Sankey said, look, part of the reason that we're debating this and discussing this, and part of the reason we're taking so long, is twofold. Number one, we got to see what the selection process for the college football playoff is going to be moving forward, because if the selection process makes it harder for us to get in with 9 games, we'll stay at 8. If it makes it easier to get in with 9, we'll go to 9, whatever. But he said the other thing he never wants to do again is, and again, I'll play this clip later in the show, he said, I never want to be on camera flipping a coin ever again. Because remember the SEC women's basketball, to determine who was going to be the 1 seed going in, Texas or USC, because they tied at the end of the year, Greg Sankey had to literally go on camera, flip a coin, flip it over, and go, okay, the Gamecocks are the 1 seed. And the Texas folks were, rightfully, understandably, pretty upset about that. But hey, a tie is like, kissing your sister, or I guess flipping a coin on TV, whichever is worse in that case. Said we don't want to do that again. So the interesting and compelling angle to me is not even about the SEC coaches' thoughts or the Big 12 or ACC coaches, because I'm going to keep it a buck. I suspect, again, maybe not consensus, but I expect the majority of college football coaches are going to be on board with the 5+11, especially non-Big 10 SEC coaches, non-ACC and Big 12 coaches to a lesser degree. I suspect most coaches are going to say, let us go out there. Let us build the toughest schedule that we can build. Let us win our way through it and just give us a chance to be one of the top 16. Just give us a chance to be inside the top 16, and we'll be happy with that. Now, the ADs have got to be won over. The college presidents have got to be won over. But there is added pressure on them because the commissioner of the Big 12, who would get 2 automatic qualifiers, but not the 4 of the Big 10 and the SEC, would get 2. He actually kind of, I'm not going to say threw shade at, but he did indeed have some comments for the SEC and the Big Ten to add pressure on them. Did it work? Probably not. But I got to respect him for trying. I'll tell you what he said when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I'm going to step away and put some audio in the bank. You'll stay right there. We'll be right back. And I think that is something that is happening maybe more than ever before in the landscape of college football. And there was some minor bad blood that surfaced between the major conferences of college football over the weekend. It came in the form of an indirect exchange between the head of the Southeastern Conference, Greg Sankey, and his counterparts in the Big 12 and the ACC. It started when Brett Yormark, who is the commissioner of the Big 12, over the course of the Big 12 spring meetings, which also took place last week, although they were obviously not quite as on the forefront, and why would they be? The biggest broadcasting sports machine owns the SEC. They're getting the primary amount of discussion on the major outlet, A. And B, as I've said a million times, American sports fans, pay attention to where the champions are. So the Big 10 and the SEC got all the attention. The Big 12, just not as much. And again, on top of that, the Big 12 doesn't really have a lot of playoff threats coming into this year, at least not that they look like on the Vegas boards right now. Well, Brett Yormark had a comment at the Big 12 spring meetings. He said that as he was advocating for the 5+11 model, which for the Big 12, their ADs and their commissioner and their college presidents and all that probably going to feel differently than the ADs and the presidents over in the SEC and the Big 10. Why? Because the 4-4-1-1-3 model, as established, as we have pointed out, guarantees twice as much revenue out of every college football playoff to the Big 2. Those that have the gold are guaranteed at least twice as much revenue as those who do not have the gold. So, of course, they're going to be against it. And also, the Big 12 would love to be able to get to a spot where they send their Big 12 champ, and maybe we have a surprise run where there's 2, 3 more Big 12 good schools that can fight their way in. Might be a little more difficult when 8 spots out of 16, half the field, is guaranteed to 2 conferences before we even select a bracket every year. So Brett Yormark, who openly has sided with the 5+11 model, said, and I quote, "Certainly, the public is voting yes for it, which I think is critically important, and it's a very good sign. And yes, the Big 10 and SEC are leading the discussions, but with leading those discussions, they have a great responsibility that goes with it to do what's right for college football and not to do anything that just benefits to conferences. I have a lot of faith in the process, and I think we'll end in the right place." Now, there's going to be a lot of times. There have been since I got here, and there will be till I'm not here no more. Whether it is on this station or on this mortal plane of existence, at the end of the day, people who are in charge of setting up a system, by and large, not every time, there are still very good, selfless people out there. But by and large, when people get into a position that puts paychecks with 6 or 7 zeros into their pocket, by and large, those people are going to set up a system that benefits them. And so this is why years ago, when the CFP started doing these meetings, and we were talking about how all the other conferences had 2 options, which was either kowtow to the SEC and the Big 10, say, hey, you guys have all the gold. We're going to play by whatever rules you want. Just throw us a bone here, eh? Or they can all gel and coalesce with each other and try to create a college football, alliance. Look, we're playing Survivor over here. A college football alliance, and say to the Big 10 and the SEC, you know what? Y'all may be able to break away and do your own thing, but you're going to do it without us. And it's just going to be y'all 28, 32, 36 teams, whatever it ultimately is, playing by yourselves, and everybody else will do our own thing over here. And we think that, well, maybe we won't be on the grand scale of the SEC and the Big 10. If all the teams in the ACC and the Big 12 and the MAC and the WAC and the Mountain West and yada, yada, yada do our own thing over here, we'll have a bigger pool of talent. We will just, by default, have more fans. We think we can survive. And maybe one day, we'll climb the mountaintop and we'll get into that echelon where maybe we threaten you a little bit. It's off in the future, but maybe. This is why at that point in time. My suggestion to the small conferences, including the ACC and the Big 12, was unite. Unite and come up with a plan, devise a plan to force the Big Ten and the SEC. Yes, you guys are the moneymakers. You got the muscle. You got the gold. That's all well and good. But you do need us. You do need us. You do need us to make y'all look good too. So create that common front, that unified front, and go into those meetings. And instead what they did was go in there and basically say, yes, SEC, yes, Big Ten, whatever you want. We're good with it. Just throw us some table scraps here and we'll be good. And so here we are. So for Brett Yormark to come out and say they have a great responsibility that goes with it to do what's right for college football and not to do anything that just benefits the two conferences, I love to agree with you, Brett. In fact, I do agree with you. I would love to say, I do say that Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, the SEC and the Big Ten, have a responsibility to make decisions on behalf of college football, because they are the power holders in this case, to make decisions within the college football atmosphere that is for the good and the benefit of everyone in college football. Except for here's the thing, Brett. You can make the argument they haven't done it yet. So why would you just expect them to suddenly start? Why in the world would you expect them to suddenly start? Now, in fairness, I do think the 5+11 model is in the best interest of college football. At least make us as fans feel like every single year when we get to week 0 and week 1 and we're kicking off a season, toe meets leather, that every team in America, while they may not have the same resources or the same capital or the same backing or whatever, at least we know from kickoff to final whistle that every team starts with the same opportunity to make it to the dance. And the reality is, if half of the field is eaten up by two conferences before they ever play a game, that's not true.
But they still will be. So, I mean, if you look at the ranked teams from last year, how many were from those two conferences?
I'm not saying they won't have that.
I mean, it's still the same. It's a smokescreen. Oh yeah, it's okay.
No, it's not a smokescreen.
Because you know that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to have a ton of ranked teams, and that are going to get it. They may even get more. They may get more.
They might. It's a risk I'm willing to take. Because do you know why? There is a difference between they will earn half the field and they are given half the field. This is the difference between guy who goes out there with nothing, starts up a business, works his way up to the top and becomes a made man, versus guy whose daddy gave him a business. I don't respect that guy. Now, maybe he puts in the work to make that business great. Maybe he learns the business and he grows in the business, but that guy had a jump start and a pool of resources that bootstrap Bill over here did not have. And so I respect that guy more because he had to grind for all of it, whereas dude over here started on third, right? The SEC and the Big Ten, if they are awarded half of the playoff spots, half of them start on third.
I'm glad you think that way. I don't care if daddy gave him his business and this guy worked harder. It's what's the best product. That's all I care about. And in the end...
Wait, time out. I'm never going to do this, but I'm going to stop you right there because that is 5+11. What's the best product? 5 champs and the 11 best teams. If it happens to be,
you're easily fooled in this. That's
okay. Then I'm going to sit back here and I'm going to need you to explain to me how 5+11, where the 11 best non-conference champs get a bid. I'm going to need you to explain to me how that's not the best product, but guaranteeing 8 teams from two conferences is a guarantee of a better product.
You are guaranteeing it with 5+11.
No, you're not.
You absolutely are.
No, you're not. That may be an inevitable result.
Do some research the last 5-10 years and find out who would have made it in. And you're going to find out the majority is going to be the Big Ten and the SEC.
Right. But they're not.
So it's just how it's worded and it makes you happy.
No. It's not. There is a difference between you earn 8 of the 16 spots and you are gift-wrapped 8 of the 16 spots. If you earn 8 of the 16 spots, I'll say this right now. If next year we go to 16, or let's say 2026, we go to 16, and we go 5+11, and it is Ohio State wins the Big Ten, and Georgia wins the SEC. And then we have Clemson out of the ACC, and then we have Colorado out of the Big 12, and then we have Boise State as your group of 5. And then the other 11 spots are all earned by nothing but SEC and Big Ten teams. You know what I would say? That's the best field.
Yeah, we'll see. Because when that happens, especially the last couple that get in, you'll talk about creative ranking. They decide to rank those teams a certain way to get more Big Ten and more SEC in. This team doesn't deserve to be ranked ahead of this team. I mean, there always will be an argument when it comes to this. I'm glad you're happy. I mean, because
I'm not happy.
It wouldn't have bothered me either way.
Let's be clear. I'm not. Of course, it wouldn't bother you. You're the beneficiary of it either way. Either way, you're good, right? Because you've got the gold. You make the rules. Of course, it's good for you. But for folks out there whose schools don't have your resources and never will, and are still watching you be given an entitlement slot, yeah, they got a problem with that. And same. So if they go 5+11, sure. We might come up with disagreements about the rankings and how Team X got to there and subjectivity, and do we have computer numbers? Do we have AI? Is it just a bunch of nerds in a room? Do we have 5 people on the committee, 5,000 people on the committee? Yes, there's going to be arguments. That's true no matter what system we go with at all. But I would rather we argue about a pool of 127 teams to fill 11 spots than fill 3.
Well,
because 3 is all that's available to everybody else if we go with the 4-4-1-1-3 model.
The end result is going to be the same thing, and I'd rather see you angry about it. So I'm all for the other way.
That's a good friend. My thought here is, my thought on this whole thing is, I agree with what Brett Yormark had to say. They have a responsibility to do what's right for college football, not just that benefits the 2 conferences. My belief that they will do that is zero. And this is why I've said a couple of times, the coaches can all be, if it could be unanimous consent across the entire SEC and Big Ten. Every one of the football coaches says, we want 5+11. But at the end of the day, the coaches don't go December 1st to Texas to sit down in a hotel room to talk to each other and figure out what format are we going to go with. The ADs, the commissioners, the presidents do. And when they sit down and there is a decision, right? This is the Rob Brown and the Live Tour talk. On one hand, I do not think the Live Tour should exist. I do not think that those golfers should be taking tens of millions of dollars from the Saudi government. I do not think we as Americans should accept that in the sports world at all. I do not think the president should be involved with them as either a politician or a golf course owner. I do not think that the media should be handing them money to carry their tournaments, whether anybody is watching or not, and they're not. I don't think any of that. And yet, tomorrow, if my phone rings and they say, Rob Brown, this is the Live Tour, and we'd like to give you $5 million a year to come be our play-by-play guy, I'm going. Because while that is not in the best interest of a large group of people that I personally do my best to advocate for and ally with, that the Saudis have a problem with, yeah, you get the implication. On the flip side, $5 million a year means my wife doesn't have to work anymore. My nephew's college is paid for. My brother's student loans are paid off. My mama's living in a mansion on the water or in the mountains or both if she wants. All that's taken care of, and I never have another worry in my life because money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a lot of stuff that makes me happy. I would have to go, and I would probably be torn up internally about it, but I'd be able to set everyone in my life up for a better life and feel like I could do more to help other people with that money than I could without it. Right? It's the same thing. Greg Sankey and the ADs and the presidents may sit in that office December 1st and have an opportunity to say, do we want the 4-4-1-1-3 model or do we want the 5+11? Do we want the model that benefits us, gives us more money, gives us more reserves, gives us more resources, and everybody else, 100 and whatever other teams are fighting for 3 spots? Or do we want to open up the field so that there's 11 spots for everybody to have a better opportunity to get in, and they have to decide in that moment? Do we do what is right for 100 other college football programs? Or do we do what's right for our 16 or 18 college football programs? And I would understand, hate, despise, make me sick if they pulled the trigger on the 4-4-1-1-3 model. It would make me sick. I'd hate it. I would rant about it the next day. Boy, Lonzo might call off of work if they announce that the 4-4-1-1-3 was model. Or he made me more excited about getting here and try to extend the show to 8 hours to get under my skin the whole time. I don't know. We'll find out. But while I would hate their decision, I would also say, I understand it. They voted for themselves to get more. Most of us, I'm not saying all, but most of us, in most situations, if given an opportunity to pull a lever that benefits us more than people around us, be honest with yourself. Most of us are pulling that lever as many times as we possibly can. I saw a thing on a anonymous social media site the other day. It was a poll, and it said, if there's a red button in front of you, if you push it, you get $1 million. But someone in the world randomly dies. Are you pushing that button? And the amount of people who said, I'd give myself carpal tunnel pushing that button. I'd push it 1 time, I'd push it 5 times, 20 times, whatever. Most of us are given the chance to push a button and benefit ourselves at the cost of others. Most people are going to do it. And this is a business, not individuals. So if they do it, I'll hate it. And we'll also immediately understand it. It's a dramatic example, but you know what I mean.
I have a more optimistic
I live for the
look
drama.
on the world, and I don't believe people will push that button. There might be a couple, but I don't think it's most, as
Okay,
you
so
said.
walk it down from $1 million and somebody dies to a person gets $500,000 and 100 people stub their toe. You're pulling the bleep out of that lever. I hope those people don't walk for their job. Sucks to be them, but you're pulling the bleep out of that lever.
Reminds me of a story I saw over the weekend where a baseball player stubbed his toe, and he's going to be out for 2 weeks.
Sports Flash.
Speaking of baseball, the Atlanta Braves dropped a 3-1 decision at home to the Red Sox yesterday. Bryce Elder called up just days earlier to replace A.J. Smith-Shaver after a confirmed UCL tear, which is much worse than the stub toe. Went 5.1 innings, giving up 6 hits and 3 earned runs. Striking out 4, Atlanta had just 5 hits, going 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The number 1 national seed has been bounced from the college baseball national championship tournament as Vanderbilt was eliminated by Wright State yesterday. Texas, number 2 seed, was eliminated by UTSA. Still don't know what that is. In the regional final, the Clemson Tigers were bounced as well, eliminated by Kentucky in a 16-4 loss. That wasn't a loss. That was a spanking. In NASCAR, Ryan Blaney won his first race of the season yesterday at Nashville. Blaney had 5 top 5 finishes, but ran away with the field late to take his first checkered flag since November. This doesn't make sense, but oh well.
Greenville County Animal Care is the only shelter in Greenville County that accepts animals regardless of their condition, behavior, or circumstances. Help us help them so we can continue giving our community's homeless animals the quality care they need. GreenvillePets.org.
Here's comedians and sketchers getting comfortable. Presented by Hands-Free Skechers Slip-In.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton. I don't know my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as Slip-Ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yep, with Skechers Slip-Ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, the Slip-Ins will pour the whole family. Men, women, and kids. Get all your favorite Skechers styles. Buy Skechers Slip-Ins in a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever.
Mike coming in here choosing violence this morning. I like it.
Happens to your car. You might say, but what you really need to say is something that can actually help.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And just like that, State Farm is there to help you file your claim right on the State Farm mobile app. So, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois.
Wire to wire with
Wonderful.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio, the fan upstate. We talked back in the first hour of the show, and ordinarily this is where we will do the audio blitz. I do have some audio for you. We're going to come to that here in just a couple of minutes, but I wanted to do this real quick. We talked back in the first hour about television. We had two, to me personally, enormously impactful shows that were called off in the last couple of weeks. First was Around the Horn with Tony Reali, a show for those of you that didn't see it, which I don't know how you didn't. It's been on the air for 20 some odd years. Basically took...
Love the Max Kellerman year.
Love the Max Kellerman year. Tony Reali as the host of this show for, again, 20 plus years. I remember when Reali was stat boy on PTI way back in the day. Reali basically stood in a studio with a little podium, and he would have 4 or 5 columnists, sports editorialists join him. And he would rapid fire through a number of different topics. And he would have these people weigh in on these topics. And if the guest got out of line or said something ridiculous, Tony Reali would literally push a mute button and take them off the TV, which I thought was fantastic. And then Reali, acting as the judge, would award points to the host as they competed. And then they would eliminate them one by one, segment by segment, until there were 2 left. They would have one final topic that they would debate, and then Reali would announce a winner for the show. And there were some names that became big-time names, guys like Woody Page, who kind of became a national talking head because of the show. I thought the show was great because, with exception, but not many, the show was kind of like just sports people talking about sports. It did not have that big, hot, takey, compelling, we got to be engaging and clickbaity attitude. And I do think that was because it was formed in the pre-clickbait era of sports broadcasting that we're in now. I adored that show. And as a young broadcaster, 17, 18 years ago, just getting into the industry, there was a part of me that kind of wanted to form what would become the Rob Brown Show throughout the years, model it off of that show. I do not want hot react to me takes. I do not want over the top. I just want to talk sports, about sports, and with people who care about sports. And I loved that show.
See, it was good early on, and then whoever won decided to go political, and it happened more and more and more to the point where, I want sports. I don't want politics, so I just turned it off and stopped watching.
I mean, sure.
And there are certain ones you knew if certain ones of the reporters won, you knew exactly where they were going, and you knew exactly what they were going to talk about. It's like, okay, fine.
Like any,
so I chose to stop watching it. And I think a lot of other people did too.
Like any other television show, it is subjective. I do not care if there are politics in my sports. I'm not going to pretend like I do. It doesn't bother me. It is a massive platform with millions of people, and if it's not for you, great to watch. And I'm talking about that show. I'm talking about basketball, football. I don't care. If you feel like it's gotten to a point where it's just too much for you, then vote with your eyeballs in your wallet and don't pay attention. That's your prerogative. I don't judge anybody for that, but it doesn't bother me. And so that show remained important to me up until its cancellation. And I do not think it got canned because it got political. I think it got canned because by and large, not exclusively, but by and large, they did not do the hot takey stuff that is taking over every other show.
That part of it, well, a lot of the hosts aged out of it. Woody Page, I mean, you could just see him from a young man to looks like he's 95. A couple of people who used to be on there died. And also now they're bringing in people that you've never heard of before. And I know originally that's how that worked. I mean, that's where you got Dan Le Batard and guys like that. They were on that show and they went on to do other things. But then some of the people that you really liked go away, and then they're replaced by people as like.
I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it. I think it was simply because when you watched that show, you weren't getting rage bait responses. You were getting, to me, largely, not exclusively. There again were exceptions, as there are to every rule. But by and large, you got well-reasoned, well thought out sports takes that were not designed to just get people to anger click on the social media video. I think it was unless you are a sports guy, it was kind of boring. Or unless you just say zero politics in my sports, it did get political at times, for sure. But if you were in that groove of sports guy who doesn't care about politics, it was a show that lasted for 3 years or whatever, 24 years for a reason. Now, we said goodbye to that show a week and a half ago because it just wasn't getting the reaction anymore. It's not that it wasn't getting reaction. It's just that all these other Stephen A. Smith-led shows were getting social media clicks and Around the Horn just didn't. And then we talked about Inside the NBA on TNT because that show went away over the weekend. As we know it, they're going to move over to ESPN. Again, my sadness for the loss of that show is that I thought it got to a point on TNT where TNT said, we got a gold mine here. Just go be the boys. Just go be goofy and knock each other into Christmas trees and you know, Shaq, if you got to poop, get up and run away from the desk and let the boys clown on you for it, which is a thing that very much happened in real life, et cetera, et cetera. And that show goes away. My fear is you bring it over to ESPN, and ESPN, as they are doing with every other show, is going to demand that they start getting hot takey. They are going to demand that they start giving more hot takes so that they can get more social media clips out of it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope that it doesn't. I hope much like ESPN didn't fit to their credit with McAfee. When they brought McAfee over, they pretty much said, we don't want you to change your show. Maybe we're going to ask you to pull a little bit back here and there, but we're not going to ask you to stop your show. We'll even put a disclaimer up front that says, hey, the boys are going to cuss. If that's not for you, this ain't for you, right? So maybe they'll leave it the same. I hope they do. There was one more show that I used to adore. And we talked about it on the broadcast many times. I loved the show Sports Science. Sports Science was one of my favorite shows of all time. And Sports Science was one of my favorite shows of all time because they took the two things that I love most in the world, the two non-people things that I love most in the world, which are sports and science, and they jammed them into one show. And they did experiments to kind of like show how remarkable the athletes and their performances at the highest level are. 100%. One of my favorites, there were two that have always jumped off the head of me. One of them, they had Terrell Owens in his prime on. And they basically wanted to find out, what's the range of an NFL wide receiver, right? Like, what's the catch radius for an NFL wide receiver? And they had T.O. effectively stand still. And they had him jump left, right, up, forward, backwards. And then they measured and they calculated from a standing spot that for a guy like T.O., if you threw the football, and I don't know why I remember this exactly, but if you threw the football within the radius of a school bus around him or within the radius of an alley-oop upwards, T.O. could catch the football. There was another one that I loved. They did a test on, the skiing stupid high big jump that they do, where they go down the not snow ramp and then they jump in the air and they do the weird like skis out and lean forward and they just travel through the air as far as they can.
I think that's just the ski jump.
Ski jump, sure, whatever it's called.
That's what it is.
I'm only a Winter Olympics expert like once every 4 years.
It's for distance.
It is for distance, not for height. But obviously your height goes into the distance. They did one where they did the math on it and they found out, and the reason streamlining is so important, they found out that for every 1 mile per hour that a skier could pick up on the ramp, it equated to about 2.5 to 3 feet of distance in the air. 1 mile an hour. So a guy going 75 down the ramp and a guy going 76 down the ramp, the guy going 76 just on speed was going to get 3 feet, which means the 75 guy either was going to lose or he had to find that distance with his aerodynamics or whatever. It's incredibly fascinating if you're a gigantic dork-ass nerd like me.
I'm guessing height and weight probably factor into that also.
All of that. Yeah. But on average, 1 mile an hour on that ramp can gain you or lose you 3 feet in distance. And in a sport where the gold medal could come down to a fraction of an inch, that's massive. Now, I bring all of that up to say that the host of that show, guy by the name of John Brankus, passed away. Saturday over the weekend. Was battling depression and unfortunately, apparently took his own life, which is absolutely heartbreaking because of. And even though Sports Science was only on the air for a couple of years, like it's not a long running show. Once it went off the air as a full television show, they started working Sports Science segments into like Sports Center, right? Like they would show a dude hitting a baseball and how this guy got more air than whatever. And then they go, and now to explain how Barry Bonds hit the ball 18 miles, here's John Brankus. And he would come on and he would say, all right, well, here's this pitch and it was this result. And this is the timing. And Barry Bonds swung the bat at this speed and at this angle, which launched the ball. John Brankus, I genuinely believe, was a big part of the reason that if you watch a baseball game nowadays, watch what happens when a guy hits a home run, even on like smaller broadcast. They put a whole graph up on the television about launch angle and exit velocity and air speed and all these different nerd stats, whereas most people would go, big dong, yay! Now when you watch, they go, all right, he got the bat on it at this speed and at this angle, and this was the exit velocity and the launch angle, and here's why it was a home run. And that stuff's fascinating to a lot of baseball nerds like me. And I think Brankus and sports science were a big part of the reason that the science element of sports for fans, like being super sciencey was always going to happen to pro sports because you're going to do anything you can do that can get you an edge. And if you find out via blood test that your offensive lineman builds fiber or builds muscle fiber faster when he eats this particular diet, you're going to work it into his contract that he does that. So you have the strongest left guard you can have to give you the best chance to win you can have. Always going to find its way to pro sports. But for those of us out here in Sportslandia, for those of us out here in the fandom that started getting into all of this, there was another one where Brankus took a hit from Marshawn Lynch to show what not from Marshawn Lynch, took a hit from, oh gosh, who was the linebacker he took it from? Brandon Jacobs. It was a running back. It was not Marshawn Lynch. It was Brandon Jacobs. He took a shot from Brandon Jacobs, and he like wore all the sensors and all that so they could get like how much force he was hit in different parts of his body and the angles he bent at when he took the hit and all that. So that because when we see a guy like Brandon Jacobs hit a guy like Von Miller, it's two absolute prototype specimens, two absolute alpha dogs colliding. And because it's two dogs, we may not, relatively speaking, be able to understand just how much force is generated. But we can when it happens to a normal dude, right? This is why every year, whenever the Olympics roll around, every dude with a microphone goes, I got an idea for the Olympics, guys. Let's put one average Joe out there. Pick one guy out of the crowd and throw him into the event to show just how spectacular these athletes are. For the record, cool. I actually think that would be kind of entertaining. Maybe not at the Olympics, but like, what if they did a regular Joe Olympics where we just like, we had regular people do these events and then we overlaid them during the Olympics? Cool idea. But that's what this cat did. And he took that shot from Brandon Jacobs so that he would be able to measure how much force is generated on me, on just an average, regular, run-of-the-mill, slightly overweight 40-year-old white dude. What's that going to do to my body? Forget what it does to Von Miller. Von Miller spends his entire life getting his body in perfect shape to both distribute and take those hits. What's that going to do to me? And it allowed us to put the absolute spectacular athletes and performances into a more, again, to me as a nerd, understandable frame of reference. And I thought that was one of the coolest things that's ever happened in TV. In fact, one of the few disappointments I've ever had is the fact that not enough of y'all watch sports science to justify keeping it going. Because again, all of this is subjective. All entertainment is subjective. But as a nerd who loves sports, I don't understand how that show wasn't one of the coolest things that anybody's ever watched. To see what they did, one with Drew Brees, where they put Drew Brees up against a Olympic gold medalist archer, right? Like somebody who is known for being able to utilize their body for peak accuracy and precision. And they said, all right, shooting an arrow is considered to be the peak in terms of human precision. Because with an arrow, you have to be exactly precise. There's very little room for error, right? So they said, what about a guy with a football? What about a guy like a Drew Brees? How accurate, in the heat of a battle, how accurate can Drew Brees be at his best? And Drew Brees went out there and was more accurate than an Olympic gold medalist archer. Now, we all know Drew Brees is accurate. We've all seen him play football. But to really dial in on just how accurate, outside of the game of football, just how accurate, precise he can be with the football, and to see that in a scientific experiment up against another frame of reference in real time was unbelievable. They did one with Carl Edwards where they measured his reaction time compared to a normal people. He was two normal people. And his reaction time was like a third of a second faster, which doesn't sound like a lot. But a third of a second in a NASCAR stock car could be 2, 3, 4 feet. How many NASCAR races have we seen won or lost by 2 or 3 or 4 feet? A lot, right? These things were wildly fascinating to me, and John Brankus came up with the idea of what if we put them into a frame of reference that regular people could understand, up to including the numbers and how they compute to frame of references outside of professional athlete doing professional athletics with other professional athletes. I thought that was a fantastic idea. John Brankus, man, you were a GOAT. You were a TV icon as far as I am concerned. This was not on the rundown. I just learned about this morning, and I got to say, that dude made it feel like, as a nerd, as a science lover, as a whatever you want to call me, and I've been called many things, as a whatever you want to call me guy, that made me feel like there was a space for that in sports. And I think that was a revolutionary idea. I thought they executed it well, and I thought he deserved a ton of credit, not just for doing it, but for laying his body on the line in order to make sure that we, as regular dudes, understood what these athletes were capable of. All right, when we come back, the Audio Blitz got audio from around the world of sports. I'll hit you with next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, give me 45 seconds. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. John Blau with the Post-In Courier will join us here in about 18 minutes. We'll talk about Clemson's exit in the regional round of the playoffs. Clemson bounced despite hosting their regional. They were not alone. A number of other regional hosts got exited from the playoffs as well. We're going to talk some more college baseball later on in the radio broadcast. But it is time for the audio blitz. Before we get there, some of the audio that we have picked up since the last time we did the audio blitz. I wanted to go with this one. I'm a big Ken Griffey Jr. guy. I'm a big fan of the kid. I mean, the dude was the coolest guy in the game when I was growing up. I've told you the story. My old man benched me because I refused to turn my hat around. I was wearing it backwards during BP, and I told him it's good enough for Griffey. It's good enough for me. He said, nope, it's not good enough for me. Sit. So I did not get a start in an all-star game. I still have that hat because of what that lesson meant to me on both sides of it. Anyway, Ken Griffey Jr. Was on the Scratch podcast along with Michael Collins from ESPN and a couple of other dudes, and they asked him, where are you playing your golf nowadays? And it led to a moment where Ken Griffey Jr. just once again looks like the coolest dude in the game. This is absolutely something that I would do to my boys, and Ken Griffey Jr. does it to his. Sorry, Dad.
Where are you playing your golf these days? Like, where's your home course? Look, this is a show for golf super nerds, so you could, whatever you say here, don't worry. I mean, we got your back.
I'm a member at Grove.
You talk about money games, losing money, but that's the spot.
Yeah, but I don't play really big money games. I think, taking money from my friends is bad. I don't want to, be responsible for taking someone's grandchild's inheritance money.
Hey, let me tell y'all, don't get it twisted. This man has a putter cover with tombstones, headstones on the putter with all of our initials from our little group.
That's not my fault that they can't putt and I put them on there.
Ken Griffey Jr. has a putter cover on which he has and adds tombstones with his buddy's initials on them every time that he beats them at golf. That's cool as hell, man. I don't care who you are. That's
You're
awesome.
just mad you didn't think of that.
Not think about it. I ain't got, let me go get something new embroidered on my putter cover every time I went around to golf. A, and B, I don't win rounds at golf, so it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter.
You could put what is that? You could bedazzle it. You could do it that way. I think that's pretty cheap.
Act like I won't. Inside the NBA on TNT has come to its conclusion. So they're obviously making the media tour. Well, the showrunner, the man who created the concept of the show, was sitting down on a podcast with Ernie and Chuck. And he got asked the question, how did you know that pairing Chuck and Shaq together was going to be a winning formula?
And we were in San Antonio. You were working for us. Shaq was still playing for the Lakers. You took us all out on a excursion to the Riverwalk.
Not a river, it's a dirty little creek.
We were walking across this parking lot, and a big limo pulled by. And all of a sudden, I hear it screech to a stop, and a door opens, and this voice yells, Charles Barkley. I'm going, oh, we're going to be fighting and all this other stuff. I turn around and it's Shaq. He gets out of the car and runs up and tackles you. Two of you guys wrestling in a parking lot in San Antonio. And when I saw that, I said, if we can get that guy on the show, we'll have something special.
And they did. Shaq and Chuck have just been phenomenal together. I am very optimistic, or at least I'm trying to pretend that I am, that they're going to let Shaq and Chuck be Shaq and Chuck when they switch over to the ESPN next season. Honestly, Shaq and Chuck, with the money they've got and the success they've had and all they've got going on, they strike me as dudes that if ESPN said, hey, we don't really want that dynamic, they'd be like, well, then we don't want to do the show. Well, we'll find out. I really hope that the show keeps its character. We'll find out. Kyle Clark is the sports director of Channel 9 News in Denver, Colorado. Now, Kyle Clark is a parent. I used to be a child. There's an expression in parenting that you have all either heard as a kid or used as an adult. And he decided to drop that bomb on the Rockies. Why? Because the Rockies are now 9-50. It is June. The Rockies have not won their 10th game. Some teams won their 10th game in the second week of the baseball season. It is now June, and the Rockies have not done it. In fact, the Rockies over the weekend set the record for the worst 59-game start in the modern era of professional baseball. And if they lose the next one, it'll be the worst 60-game start, and onward and onward and onward. Where Kyle Clark of Channel 9 News decided to drop that old parenting bomb on his team.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. If you're a parent, there's a good chance that you have said those words, and I've thought about that as I considered buying tickets to take my kids to a Rockies game. My girls are getting old enough that I think they'd enjoy it, and I want them to see Coors Field. It's one of the great ballparks in America. And if we're being honest, it is a lot more affordable to take the family to a Rockies game than like a Broncos game or a Nuggets game. But before I bought those tickets, I paused, because I've heard some very smart people say that the Rockies ownership will never have a real incentive to improve the product on the field until people stop buying tickets. And I want the Rockies to be competitive. I mean, I want my girls to grow up cheering for a competitive baseball team. So I paused before I bought my family tickets for a baseball game. How sad is that? A family should be able to go to a baseball game without worrying that giving the franchise a few dollars is enabling them to continue being a perennial doormat for visiting teams. My kids don't care that the Rockies are historically horrible, and I know they'd have fun at the game. And listen, I am not a baseball expert. I'm a casual fan. I don't have advice for the Rockies front office. I'm just a dad who wants to take his girls to a baseball game without a nagging thought that every one of us still paying to watch that team is part of the problem. I guess what I'd like to tell the Rockies is I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
You know, I've said for a very long time, the concept of vote with your wallet in professional sports nowadays doesn't really work, unfortunately, anymore, because ticket sales, while a big chunk of a team's revenue, especially in the game of baseball, are not the primary source of revenue. That's television dollars. And at the end of the day, the TV dollars are going to keep coming in as long as we keep watching baseball and as long as there are good teams at the top. I don't know what the number is for, say, last night's Sunday night baseball game 3 between the Dodgers and the Yankees, but I'd expect at least a couple of million people tuned in to watch it across these great United States, which means ESPN's going to fork over a handful of milli to the baseball, and the baseball's going to distribute that, yes, even to the bad teams like the Rockies. I wish the concept worked. Here's the other issue. He's right about Coors Field. It is one of the great baseball parks in America. I had the chance to go there about 15 years ago, like when they were enhancing it. Beautiful park, beautiful setting, beautiful city. Colorado's an incredible state. Denver's a beautiful place. Like, it's an amazing, amazing arena. And the problem is Rockies fans are still coming out en masse. They are still putting 45, 50,000 people in that stadium, even when the team is 9-50. And on top of that, it is a well-traveled to destination in the NBA, or excuse me, in the MLB. Somebody was pointing out that not too long ago, the Cubbies played a 3-game set at the Rockies. And there was a Rockies fan on that thread I pulled that audio from. There was a Rockies fan who said that there was so much Cubs red and blue that it almost felt like a Cubs home game more than a Rockies home game. I don't know how to fix it anymore. I don't know how to deal with it anymore. I don't know what we can do when ownership is this bad. Now, Pittsburgh Pirates, same situation. Pittsburgh Pirates have 5 starters right now. 4 of them are inside of the top 25 pitchers in baseball. 4 pitchers on their staff are top 25 pitchers in Major League Baseball. And yet, they stink. They stink so bad that there is conversation right now with people trying to convince the Pirates to trade Paul Skeens so that they don't waste him and that Paul Skeens can go pitch somewhere people actually see him. And guys like Charlie Rose, big-time baseball guy, are pointing out that if they don't trade Paul Skeens, that is a direct damage to Major League Baseball because they're keeping a guy who is right now on the zenith of his career, just at his peak, in his second year, away from the national spotlight. And he asked the question on his pod the other day, how do we fix that? The answer is, I don't know. Because the Pirates keep making money. The Pirates keep getting paid. The owners keep making money. What's the impetus to sell? I don't know what the answer is anymore. I mean, I do. The answer is a promotion relegation league. But American sports ain't going to stand for that. All right, let me give you one or two more before we get to John Blau coming up in the next segment. Here is one that is not sports, but I loved it anyway. Dale Jr. and his wife, Amy, do a podcast together. And they had maybe the most married couple moment that I've heard in a long time. And I got to tell you, I only play this because I thought it was cute.
Here's what we're going to do. You're going to tell me something, and I have to accept it.
I'm kind of nervous to share it at this point.
I know, I am too. I'm nervous to hear it.
I can't share it then.
Does everybody else need to hear it?
I don't know.
Damn it, dude. See, that's the one thing I'm worried about with this show is that you don't know when
to stop talking.
When to stop sharing.
So sometimes I say I've got errands to run, and I just get in my car and I drive around.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the one?
No, that's not the one.
Oh, my God. Are you serious? You need to tell me the other one. You want to whisper it to me? Quiet.
I can
do it. Holy really? What the?
I don't know. He, by the way, would go on a couple of minutes later to be like, you bleep hole, to his own wife. Now, I got to tell you, this might be the healthiest marriage in sports. And I mean that. The fact that they had that, I thought was fantastic. First off, Zoe, have you or your bride, who you outkicked your coverage on, are you aware, ever gone, I got to go run an errand and you just needed to get out of the house for a minute? Like you just left. You just went somewhere. Or went nowhere, just drove in circles. Is that a thing you've ever done?
I mean, she might have. I don't go anywhere. So, I mean, you know.
I can acknowledge that I think both the wife and I have at some point. Now, I will say this. We don't go, I'm going to run errands. We literally both say, I need to walk away for a few minutes. Got to cool off, got to whatever. And more often than not, that involves I go in the Brookhaven and shut the door. She goes in the bedroom and closes the door. Like, we just got to give some space and time. But I will absolutely acknowledge, I've just gotten in the car and driven around. I can't even be in the house because all I'm going to do is think about it. The fact that they can have that moment, laugh about it, call each other names, and then giggle on the way out, I think it's adorable. Texture said, Rob, vote with your wallet only works until clueless rich jerk owners decide you are the problem and they need to move. That is absolutely a problem. John Fisher of the Oakland Athletics is the illustration to that. Texture said, Rob, who cares about exit velocity as long as it exits? Yeah, that's a Braves fan. That's a Braves fan. Texter said, Bootstrap Bill, Rob's been watching Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, it was a reference. I just let it go because, like, okay.
I said Bootstrap. You know I like to make up random characters, but yes, Bootstrap Bill, the father of Will Turner.
I was just wondering what happened to Bob.
Great reference. Well, Bob's used cars. Bob, I don't really know if Bob is a Bootstrap guy or if Daddy gave him that, right? If there was like a Bob Jr.'s used car and now he's Bob the Third's used cars.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Texture said, Rob, if you want to get arrested, you could try public urination. That seems pretty harmless. My roommate spent the night in county jail for it back in college. Just don't do it in front of kids. Then you get put on a special list. Yeah, I go to Mardi Gras. I've seen that happen. All right, John Blau with the Post and Courier joins us in the next segment. We'll ask, what the hell went wrong for the Clemson Tigers? Bounce from their own regional. John will explain next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, dudes and dudettes, we're going to step away while we get John Blau locked and loaded. Stay right there. We'll talk Clemson baseball next.
exhausted when I get home and get back on that sleep schedule.
Yep. By the way, I said earlier there would be clickbait topics on TV. Luka Doncic and LeBron is their topic today. The NBA Finals start this week. The absolute best postseason in all of American sports, if you ask me, and only me, is the NCAA baseball tournament. It has everything. It has upsets. It has big-time underdogs. It has breakout dramatic performances and more. One of the unfortunate parts for some schools is that they get bounced even though they are hosting a regional. That the fate of the Clemson Tiger baseball team. To break down what happened in Clemson, South Carolina this weekend, joining us as he does every Monday morning at 8:40 a.m. He covers the Clemson Tiger athletic department for the Post and Courier. John Blau joins us here on the program. John, good morning, brother. Welcome back. I'm sure it was a long weekend for you. What happened?
Yeah, wasn't quite as long as it would have been if Clemson had actually won.
Fair enough.
At the noon game. But yeah, obviously losing that game to West Virginia the way they did, when you get into that loser's bracket, it gets a whole lot harder to get out of your regional. To have Lucas Malstead, your dominant reliever for most of the year, have one of his couple of moments where he didn't really come through. Obviously, we saw it against Florida State when they lost that game. That kind of lost them the ACC regular season title and potentially the tournament title. Then he can't hold the lead down against West Virginia. Obviously, they storm out to a lead. They end up winning that game. And then the next day, you have to play Kentucky. Obviously, an SEC team did not have a good season. Obviously, well below 500 in SEC play. Some of those teams, though, when they get a second chance, a new life, can be hard to beat. And Clemson, we've seen this with them. Just not enough depth pitching-wise. They really we saw in the ACC title game against UNC, lost in a rout when they had to get to their fourth day of pitchers. Talon Bell, the freshman against Kentucky, did not have a good day. Had to go to some other relievers. They all did not have good days, and it really got away from them really fast.
The 6 different pitchers in a 16-4 loss to Kentucky yesterday, which was the elimination game. But I also think on top of that, John, there were, I think 7 or 8 errors committed by Clemson in that game, which was just wild considering this was a team with like a 97, 98% fielding efficiency mark during the regular season. To see the fielding fall apart the way that it did against Kentucky, I think was maybe the most shocking takeaway. Was there any trigger for that, or did Clemson just pick a bad day to have a bad day?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that to know the trigger, you'd have to be inside their heads. I can't get there. But, yeah, to have almost nearly as many errors, 7, as you have hits, 9, that's just the wheels completely falling off. And, yeah, obviously you can get behind. You start, obviously feeling it a little bit. You start feeling a little bit of pressure maybe, and you have to kind of, you get out of your own head because you're just not playing comfortable and loose anymore. You're playing tight again. Eric Backus talked about that during the losing streak when they lost 9 out of 12 games. You saw guys that were kind of clenched playing the game, and that may have happened again. I don't know, but yeah, they looked awful in pretty much every phase. It reminded me of 2 years ago when Clemson lost to Tennessee in that extra inning game, and then they came back the next day against Charlotte. It was a closer game, but just did not have any energy, any juice. It seemed like Clemson kind of knew, that this thing was coming to its end, and maybe lost a little bit of focus there. But yeah, it was not pretty in any way, and obviously disappointing for Clemson. Being, at one point they were ranked the number 2 team in the country. They were considered, a team that of all the teams in college baseball had maybe the best chance of getting to Omaha. But I think at the end of the day, we learned this was a team that just was playing with thin margins. They were winning games by close margins, and pitching, you don't have enough of it. That makes it really hard to win the postseason.
This was a team that, John Blau, and I think we talked about this during the course of the regular season and the ACC tournament, this was a team that I would kind of define as a vibes team, right? Like I say the same thing about the Atlanta Braves. When they're feeling good and the vibes are high, they are dangerous from the plate and off the bump. But if those vibes take a dip, things go a little sour. Obviously, Cam Cannarello was an absolute beaut on Friday, and the game on Saturday came up with some clutch hits. But then we got to those last two games, and it just kind of felt like the ball wasn't going where they wanted it to off the pitcher's hand. The bats couldn't get around, and it felt like the team just kind of hit the skids. Is that do you think that is a fair definition of what Clemson was as a team during the season, in this tournament, in the region, whatever? Or was it just a matter of we didn't have the right talent in the right place to be an Omaha caliber team?
Well, I think it's both, because I think, like you said, the vibes thing it's a confidence thing. And when you don't really have great talent, and Eric Backus even admitted in the press conference, like, look at our stats. I mean, this is not a team that should have won 45 games. I mean, you only have 2 hitters hitting over 300. We got 73 homers, which is well below the 100-plus they hit last year. This is not a team that really produced at the plate at a high rate. They just produced at the right times and at clutch hits, and they would see pitches, they'd get on base, and they would kind of grind out victories. And then pitching-wise, again, they had a little bit more pitching. They were able to kind of get by when you had Ethan Darden. Maybe it would have been even better if you had a Dane Moeller, the freshman, if you had a Michael Gillen, the transfer from Seton Hall, but you didn't have any of that. And so there's just too many holes in the batting order. There were too many guys you had to move from the bullpen to starting spots that kind of took a strong bullpen that made it a little bit weaker. You just didn't really have the talent at the end of the day. I think they kind of tricked us a little bit. I mean, they tricked me a little bit. I mean, just the way they were able to win some of those games, and they're constantly finding ways to win. You think, okay, they're that good. I mean, they're able to, it's not conventional. It doesn't look explosive. It's not, they're not, statistically impressive, but they find ways to win. And I think at the end of the day, they were just operating with thinner margins than some of us wanted to think or admit. And those margins were kind of exposed once they got into postseason play. We're playing against really good teams, day in, day out.
John Blau of the Post and Courier joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. I heard some of the comments of Eric Backus afterwards. He pointed out how this team swept South Carolina in the regular season. That's a point of pride. This team made a run through the ACC tournament. In fact, pointed out at one point that, dropping that last game to North Carolina, a team that is moving, or that did move into the regionals as well, maybe cost them the opportunity, should they get out of the regional, to host the super regional, et cetera, et cetera. Down the line, when we get deeper into the offseason, once we've come and gone to Omaha, once it's time to start looking ahead to the 2025-26 season, what do you think the legacy of this team will be, and the lessons taken by Eric Backus into next year will be?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because obviously this is a team that got them to their third straight regional. Only Arkansas and Clemson the last 2 years have hosted a regional all 3 years. And so they've been consistent in doing that. Obviously, everybody will remember Cam Cannarello and, robbing home runs and the way he ended this season in terms of the tear he went on. But obviously, legacy-wise, I mean, it's still one of those teams, again, not quite good enough. And, Eric Backus admitted that. And he also, sounded a little bit annoyed. He said, we know that Clemson hasn't been to Omaha since 2010. We got it. We know. We're working to make sure that happens. And so it'll be interesting to see how Eric Backus responds. I mean, what he's actually able to do this postseason, because, obviously NIL's changing a little bit with the rev share model. Clemson, baseball will not, obviously be the most well-funded program in the Clemson athletic department. They'll have full scholarships. That will be a benefit. They'll have 34 full scholarships. They're not going to have necessarily some of the NIL rev share assets maybe that some other programs have. So who can they attract? Can they attract some, front line, maybe starting pitching, or just some relievers that could throw, 96, 97, 98, which they really haven't had in recent years? Are they going to be able to attract some guys who can, like Backus said, with one swing of the bat can change the game? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a home run hitter. That can be explosive guys who can take a single and make it a double, or a double, make it a triple. They just need more athletic, more explosive athletes. It's going to be interesting to see if they can collect some more of those, because again, in the final calculus, when we look back on this team, not explosive enough, not enough depth in terms of the guys who can change a game either from the bullpen or in the batting order. And this is going to be the offseason where we figure out whether Eric Bakich could take that to another level or if he's kind of working with what he's got here.
We are at a point where we are seeing for teams that are no longer active, didn't make a regional, or have been eliminated so far. John Blau, we are seeing guys go into the portal. We're seeing guys make their intentions known already, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any movement? I mean, I know it's only been a day, and I know it's probably too soon, kind of a soft, sore spot right now, and that's understandable. But at the same time, always got to be working towards getting better and better. Is there any indication of movement from Clemson to Clemson, guys that are being discussed, not, et cetera, or are we still kind of in an evaluation period before we start taking those steps?
Yeah, we're still in what you would say, like you said, the evaluation period. I think Bakich said his exit meetings would be in the next few days. And so he hasn't sat down with the players yet, had one-on-one conversations about kind of where they stand and what the player obviously is thinking as far as where they want to go, what they want to do. And so, we're going to see some movement probably the next few days. We'll see announcements from guys that are hitting the transfer portal. And, I think, Bakich admitted they're recruiting, I think he said 5 classes. You're recruiting all the way down to some of those 9th graders. You're also recruiting, some of the guys who are in college right now. I'm sure that Clemson through this postseason, even while where they've been competing, they've still been, looking at the transfer portal, being in contact with athletes who they think maybe could help them next year. They at least have a decent sense. You're not going to have Cam Canarella back. You're not going to have Andrew Chupo back. You're not going to have Dominic Listy back. Those are guys for sure you're not going to have back. You have to replace them somehow. And then, there's probably going to be a couple guys that maybe didn't have the type of season they wanted. I'm not saying this for sure. This is just, a question in my own head, like a guy like a Luke Gaffney who came from Purdue and, didn't have the greatest year, wasn't even in the lineup in the postseason. Is that a guy, wants to stick around for another year? I mean, that's going to be interesting to see. But they're going to have those types of conversations, figure out who wants to stay, who wants to go, and then they'll try to, shape the roster around who's left.
John Blau from the Post and Courier, another minute or two before we let you go, John. I did want to check in on 2 other topics. The first is, as you have been following it quite intently, the House settlement. Obviously, we know that Judge Claudia Wilkins sent the 2 parties back to the table because of the roster limitation dispute to come up with something. I was under the impression, and I guess I misread the situation, that we needed settlement terms back on the table within 2 weeks of that. We are now outside of that window, and I have heard nothing new since then. Do you have any updates? Have you continued to follow this story closely, or is this kind of just taking a seat until we find out what the negotiations lead us to?
Yeah, no, I've kind of just been waiting, like all you guys, to see what will happen. I was under a similar impression that by now she would have made a ruling, and either it would have been set, everything would have been set into place, or she would have rejected it and sent them back to trial. But we have not heard anything, and obviously, I think a lot of college administrators and people in college athletic departments are a little bit anxious right now because in less than a month they're going to start paying athletes and some states, and I think even the state of South Carolina already has legislated that they can pay athletes directly. So the universities can do this by law. There's just no rules. There's no regulatory body set up yet. That Deloitte Clearinghouse, all this stuff really can't take effect until the settlement is codified or is agreed upon, and then maybe a codification of the settlement via congressional action, even though that's probably a longer shot. But yeah, everybody's just kind of waiting and just trying to see what's going to happen. And I would hope it would be within the next few days. But I thought it would be a couple weeks ago, like you would have thought it would be a couple weeks ago. So who knows?
John Blau covers Clemson for the Post and Courier. Kind enough to join us every Monday at 8:40. John, my man, I appreciate it as always. We will talk to you next week, bud. Go get yourself a nap, pal.
I'll do that. Thanks, Rob.
Absolutely. John Blau at JONBLAU on the X. If you're a Clemson fan, he is a must follow. If you're a sports fan, Lonzo is a must listen with the Sports Flash.
The
Oh, no.
That's all right. It's okay. The number 1 national seed has been bounced from the College Baseball National Championship Tournament as Vanderbilt was eliminated by Wright State yesterday. Texas, the number 2 seed, was eliminated by UTSA in the regional final. I'm going to have to look that up. I still don't know what that is. The Clemson Tigers were bounced as well, eliminated by Kentucky in a 16-4 loss. Don't think I'm not going to mention that every chance I get. The opening lines of the NBA Finals have been released. The Oklahoma City Thunder are one of the biggest favorites in Finals history with a minus 750 opening line over the Pacers, listed as plus 525 underdogs. Only the 2017-18 Warriors have had shorter odds in the last 20 years. In NASCAR, Ryan Blaney won his first race of the season yesterday at Nashville. He ran away from the field late to take his first checkered flag since November. I could have looked it up, James. I was just making fun of it. I have the Google. I could have looked it up. Oh, okay. There you go. Hey. Oh, crud, I mistimed that. Hopefully he's out of the truck.
The final 60 of the show starts now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. I'm going to get to some college football here in just mere moments from right now. But before I do, I made a prediction back in hour number 1. We were talking about TV shows that have come to their conclusion. Around the Horn, one of my favorite shows of all time. One of the shows that helped to shape and influence what the Rob Brown Show has become today. Your three-time South Carolina Broadcasters Association Sports Talk Radio Show of the Year. And Inside the NBA on TNT, which I have said multiple times, and I sincerely mean it, was the only NBA show worth watching anymore. On TV. There's actually a lot of really good YouTube channels out there with some really, really intelligent guys and gals who know ball that I peruse. But as far as massively available television, Inside the NBA was the only studio show, that to me was even worth watching anymore. Everybody else has just evolved into hot take artists. And so I made a prediction not too long ago, back in hour number 1. I said, if you would like to doubt me on this, if you would like to challenge me on this, I dare you to tune in to ESPN's morning show this morning.
And of course, we just had the other one drop. So
yep, I made 2 predictions of segments that will be done today. Segment number 1 that would be done today was that at some point we would have a conversation about Luka LeBron and the Lakers, and at some point we would have a conversation about the Dallas Cowboys. Well, right before we got John Blau on the phone, I looked up at the television here in the studio, which Lonzo and I flip around to different channels, different mornings, and see who's talking about what. And would you look at that, I look up, and I see a segment being done on Luka LeBron and the Lakers. Now, in fairness, it was because of a comment made by Luka Doncic yesterday, who, when being asked about his time with the Lakers, his first year with the Lakers, et cetera, he said that LeBron impressed him because, LeBron would be at the gym 10 hours before a game. He said, I would show up to get my workout in, and LeBron's already done working out and getting set for workout number 2. Basically just, praising LeBron James for, at 41 years old, his work ethic. And then I said, okay, there's one. We were on the phone with John Blau of the Post and Courier, which, by the way, Clemson fans, if you missed it and you want to hear what John had to say about Clemson's bouncing from their own regional, we'll have that available for you on demand at thefanupstate.com. Go to the podcast section, click it down, drop it down to The Rob Brown Show, and re-listen to hour number 3. The full interview with John Blau will be available there. As we were speaking with John Blau, I looked up. Lonzo pointed aggressively at the television, and I looked up, and what do you know? The conversation is George Pickens, can he survive with the Dallas Cowboys? Now, I will absolutely say that is a conversation to have. I think it's a conversation that was had when George Pickens joined the Dallas Cowboys a month ago, and I think it's a conversation that we should be having when we get to fall camp, preseason, maybe weeks 1, 2, 3, depending on what the offense looks like around Dak Prescott. Fine conversation to have. But, it's so predictable. It's so predictable that it has gotten boring. Why is it that I put all the sports show tag on this show? Why is it that we talk about the NBA Finals, the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, just like we cover the local sports? It is solely because I know that there are many of you that want conversations about the NBA, but you do not want to have to listen to the Hot Take Express that rolls through your television screens and your radio dials every single morning. I try to be the outlet. I try to be the antithesis. I try to be the place that you can go to listen to takes about your favorite sports that aren't just rage bait about the same 4 teams over and over and over again. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Moving on. Let's get to some sound from the landscape of collegiate football. Greg Sankey and Kirby Smart, of course, 2 of the leading voices in college football. Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. Kirby Smart, the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, a perennial national championship contender. Heather Dinich was down there in Destin covering the SEC spring meetings as well. Let's hear some sound from all of them. I will start with Heather Dinich. Heather Dinich was asked about the potential for the Southeastern Conference to vote for a 5+11 college football playoff format that is the 5 highest ranked conference champions plus 11 at-large bids. That's a move that I like. It's a move that everybody who's not the SEC and the Big Ten like. Heather was asked by Paul Feinbaum on the Paul Feinbaum Show where we are in that process and what momentum, because it did pick up momentum very rapidly last week. What momentum does it have right now?
Greg Sankey said yesterday that he believes that independent decisions can be made. So he said that he thinks that you can make a scheduling decision without knowing the playoff, although it's not ideal and the timeline is certainly not optimal. But you're 100% right, because multiple athletic directors went on the record yesterday. I asked Scott Stricklin, can you get to a 9-game conference schedule without AQs and knowing the playoff? And he said, I can't, personally.
He'll be here in a minute. We'll ask him.
Yeah, you can ask him in a minute. But there's a definite tie-in for the athletic directors. The question is, can Greg Sankey get the athletic directors on the same page as the coaches? And can everyone get on the same page with a 5+11 model? Because I can tell you this, there's support outside of the SEC for 5+11. Brett Yormark told me today, it's been my first choice all along. I presented it in Charlotte. I've talked to other conference commissioners throughout the league who have said, hey, this would be great. It's a good alternative. We love it.
So a couple of comments that I took away from what Heather Dinich said to Paul Feinbaum wrapping up SEC spring meetings last week. Number one, she said that independent decisions can be made. And now she said that in the context of discussing, is the SEC going to move from an 8 to a 9-game conference slate moving forward? Because one of the hangups, according to Greg Sankey, and we will hear that here in just a minute. Actually, I won't even hear it. I'll just go ahead and play it for you. Greg Sankey was asked that same question. Is there the possibility of moving from an 8 to a 9-game conference slate? And here is how Sankey responded to Paul Feinbaum.
And it's not all about the CFP, so recall our past conversations. There's a segment of our membership highly focused on, if you go to 9 games, is that an asset or a liability in CFP selection? It leans more towards liability. There's a segment who says, you know what, we'll play the games, we're going to be successful, and we'll be fine. And we saw some really difficult schedules. You know, Georgia had an incredibly difficult road schedule and was the second team in the CFP rankings. We were fully supportive of the bracketing change that's there for this year. On the other hand, when you go back to others who are just want to think about bowl games, the potential for another loss to get to that 6-win threshold, you really have to process through what do bowl games look like in the future, and some of the issues we've had around portal entries and attrition within a team. We talked to ESPN about what that might mean for us together collectively. So it's actually a reduction in inventory. So you're taking a week of non-conference games where there could be 16, boiling that down to 8 if you go to 9. We need some clarity around CFP direction, though. I think that becomes the most prominent issue on the list of evaluation points.
So Greg Sankey mentions 3 problems there. Again, Heather Dinich says independent decisions, that includes moving from 8 to 9, can be made regardless of what they believe the CFP will do or what the CFP will do. Sankey says there are a couple of things that have to be addressed. He said, first off, there is a segment that says, play the games, we'll be fine. That's the coaches, all right? He's talking about the coaches right there. The coaches have made it clear, Brian Kelly made it clear, that they are for the 5+11 model. And they are for the 5+11 model. As I've said, though, nobody has specifically gotten into it because I feel like SEC coaches believe we play week in and week out in the toughest conference in football. Just let us play the games, and if we deserve to be there, we'll deserve to be there. That's a football mentality. It's not a business mentality. And hence the second 2 things that Greg Sankey said were kind of hindrances to deciding to move from 8 to 9 games as a conference schedule. He said, number 1, you've got another segment of the football population that is concerned about bowl games, which makes sense. If you add another SEC game, getting to 6 wins becomes a little bit more difficult. Now, for us, not the end of the world. Because again, if you go from 8 to 9, you're making it more difficult to get 6. And that is a problem for smaller schools. It is a huge boot to the boot for Vanderbilt if they were to add another SEC scheduled game and they only win 5 and they don't go to a bowl game. Why? Because bowl games are payouts, it's a big chunk of money, and it's a bunch of extra practices for your guys. Part of the reason that coaches strive to get to that 6th win is not because they really care that they're getting sent to Shreveport, Louisiana to play in the Independence Bowl. It is because they get those extra 17 practices or whatever it is. That is opportunities to set the starters, find out what your next year's football team looks like for the guys that are already on it and are moving to next year. That's a big deal. So that's a problem, but there's also the payout. That's the argument that you're going to hear from athletic directors. That's the argument that you're going to hear from some coaches, and that's predominantly of the smaller schools. Not of the bigger schools, but of the smaller schools. And that's the argument you're going to hear from school presidents. And then there is the entity, the party, that we, my fault, probably haven't talked enough about. And that's the TV side of it. Now, Sankey says you're actually decreasing the inventory because in a weekend where we could have 16 teams playing out of conference games, now you only have 8 games. Because those 16 teams are playing each other. Now, he's not wrong about that, but I would make another argument there. If you go 8-9 and you drop one of those games, a lot of the games you're going to drop are going to be high-level out-of-conference games. You're going to lose LSU USC. You're going to lose Alabama Florida State. You're going to lose Georgia Clemson. And those are big losses. I will acknowledge both for them and for us as fans, right? It's not even necessarily a game between national championship contenders. But I've got South Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Atlanta coming up here in 80 whatever days it is. Circled in red on the calendar at the crib for the wife and I to find a couple of dog sitters to head on over to the ATL for a weekend. We're going to take in the whole weekend in Atlanta surrounded around that game. That's a big deal. But if we go to 9, there's a chance that a team like South Carolina goes, yeah, we're never scheduling that game. Clemson's never going to schedule Georgia. Because they may have, at maximum, 2 out-of-conference games. Are you really going to add Georgia into one of those spots? And if you're the SEC, if you're Georgia, you're going, wait a minute, we got to play 9 games. Even if we are the big dogs, we got to play 9 games in conference. Then we got Georgia Tech, so we really have 2 out-of-conference games that we get to work with here. Are we going to schedule Clemson in one of those spots as opposed to going and playing Elon and Gardner-Webb? No. Why would we do that, right? Like, why would we make it harder in that spot? So I get where he's coming from, and I'm going to keep it a buck with you. Addressing that angle, the business angle, the billionaires angle, the angle of the people in suits in Bristol trying to figure out what's best for the TV platform, I don't know. I can only make speculation. I don't know if ESPN says, yeah, well, we're going to get a bunch more SEC games out of the deal. But we are going to lose South Carolina, Virginia Tech. We are going to lose Clemson, Georgia. These are highlight games. These are marquee games. These are games that we're talking about 2 years out. Hey, 2 years from now, Georgia Clemson playing in Atlanta. That's going to be a ball. Can't wait for that. Like, let's hope both those teams are still where they are now 2 years from now. We've already got, as we've mentioned, the USC Notre Dame game that is being threatened. Part of that reason why is conference game schedule expansion. So I think there's a lot more to it here that needs to come into play. And I think it's going to be discussed. I do think 5+11 is right, but that's not what's holding Sankey and the SEC back from going to 9 games. What's holding them back from going to 9 games is the committee saying, here's what our selection criteria is going to be. Here's what we're going to be looking for to determine whether it's 5+11 or whether it's 4-4, 2-2, 1-1-3. Whatever we arrive at, we need to make sure that we are setting it up to where our teams, all of them, have the best opportunity to get into that field. And if it's 4-4, 2-2, 1-1-3, that may be a different set of criteria than 5+11. But at the end of the day, the CFP needs to say, we're going to use 33% AI running the numbers. We're going to go back to the BCS computers, and they're going to have half the vote. We're going to have a 5-person selection committee, a 15-person selection committee, a 250-person selection committee that is going to be X% media, X% former coaches, X% former players, X% business people, right? Whatever. We need to know all that Because if we look and we go, all right, with the system set up the way that it is, losses hurt you more than wins? Yeah, we're not going to play another SEC school. In fact, we're going to encourage all of our SEC schools to go out there and book a bunch of mid-tier schools and beat the hell out of them to make us look better. But if they come back and they create a system where it looks like losses maybe aren't dinged up as much as they have been in the past, well, in that case, yeah, let's do 9. Let's give ourselves one more real tough game on the schedule to boost the resume up. And if you lose it, it's not the end of the world. But if you win it, it looks great. Half our teams are going to pick up an extra really good-looking win, and half our teams are going to suffer a loss that maybe doesn't hurt them as much. So the reality of all of this is the only vote that matters next, to me, the only vote that really matters next is, are we going 5+11, or are we going 4-4, 2-2, 1-1-3? We'll determine that in December. Now, the SEC does have to reach their conclusion of 8 or 9 game schedule before we get to that vote. They've got to reach their decision at that point. But as I pointed out, take it back to 2020, the COVID year. The COVID year, football got scrapped months out before it started. Do you remember what happened in the SEC? They said no out-of-conference games. Very few of the conferences played out-of-conference games that year. They said no out-of-conference games. So what they do, they reworked that schedule 6 weeks before the season started. So they're not, like, it's not that they are pressed for time. They can redo an entire schedule 6 weeks out, the conference schedule, if they have to. The only obvious problem for that would be that if they decided to not that, a lot of schools, all the schools, would have to get rid of one out-of-conference opponent, and that would be a lot of phone calls and some money changing hands. But what it comes down to here is we got to figure out which model we're using. And we got to figure out what the committee's criteria is going to be, which that may be the hardest thing of all to come up with, because they may very well say, we don't know yet. We want to see football, and then we'll determine. That leads me to believe the SEC will, for at least one additional year, stick with an 8-game schedule. Because what you don't want to do is make your schedule tougher for all of your teams, especially if it's an 11 at-large field. You don't want to make your in-season schedule harder for the rest of your teams without knowing there's a reward for it. So I bet we stay at status quo for the time being. We go to a committee given their selection process, and that makes it more difficult, then we'll change. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. And I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you very much. And for the record, like, I know some people don't necessarily understand this. I mean this when I say I can have heated political discussions, debates, and I'm not gonna, share a wing or clink a beer with you at the end of it. I think they're important to have. I think we have, to some degree, lost the ability to have passionate debate amongst ourselves, but still maintain respect for the person. Now, there are lines that you will cross, right? If you come across as openly racist, openly sexist, openly xenophobic, versus having a good solid foundation for your take, then I'm going to go, yeah, I don't respect your opinion and therefore you. And I've done that to some people. But some of my very dearest friends in the world, as I don't think it's a surprise to anybody, I'm not a conservative. I do consider myself a classical Republican, an old school Republican. I think the conservative party, the Republican Party, is just different than it was when I was a Republican. I don't think I've shifted. I think I've been left behind. But I can have discussions with people who are hardcore conservatives, and some of mine are very dear friends of mine. I can have discussions with those people and then go, now let's get a beer. I still love you. So, all right, give me just a minute. I'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Respect that, Kane. Appreciate it. I think there's another thing, and this is where my repeated complaints about tribalism come into play, where a lot of the people will defend a bad take from someone on their team, their side, their camp, whatever, will defend a bad take from them just so that their side isn't insulted. And I think that is a big problem too, is people who defend bad stances in poor faith, not because they actually think it's a good stance, but because they don't want someone from their side taking a hit. That is in politics, a direct result of us moving more into what I believe is a sports philosophy in our politics, which is a bad thing. It should not be a team v. team. Unfortunately, I do also think that is the direct result of I don't want to say mandatory two-party system. That's why George Washington warned us against the two-party system. It's one of the few pieces of advice he left behind that we did not follow.
There are third parties, fourth parties, fifth parties. Absolutely.
And none of them relevant, unfortunately. I'd love for them to be relevant, but it's just not a reality. Because the two parties we have are so polarized in their takes that you can't feel like you can join a third side unless you throw away your vote effectively. As it is the football offseason, we have entered, of course, what I like to call time for peak off-season radio. Here's your peak off-season radio debate of the day. Peak off-season radio, of course, a point where hosts who do not have the ability to discuss, break down, diagnose, etc., other sports, start making up silly debates. Some can be fun.
Change the name of it, because when you hit say peak, you keep peaking, and it's painful.
It is time for
too many peaks.
It is time for peak off-season radio, ladies and gentlemen.
Pretend like you're like advertising that tea or something.
One of the guys that I very much like, enjoy, love is, of course, the legendary, the iconic Dan Patrick. Dan Patrick on his show, they do a lot of good sports takes. They also do a lot of silly. Why not? We do a lot of silly here on this show. They had a debate with one of their co-hosts / producers, guy by the name of Seton, and from Seton Hall. Seton had a very interesting thought on the importance of music in sport. Zoe, I got a feeling I know which side of this you're going to come out on, and I'm interested in hearing it. Here is the discussion and debate from the Dan Patrick Show.
If you have a theme song, like the Red Sox have Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond is from Brooklyn. And Seton said this yesterday. He goes, shouldn't you, if you use a song, it should be from a person who is from your city or maybe your state?
The White Stripes song Seven Nation Army is used in, I bet, 95% of sports stadiums across the world. But I always kind of feel like if I was a fan of a Detroit team, I would be like, that's our song, though. White Stripes are from Detroit. You know, a lot of people use Enter Sandman. Well, Enter Sandman, Metallica as a band, they're from most associated with San Francisco. So I feel like San Francisco teams should be able to use Enter Sandman. Maybe Los Angeles has a little bit of a claim there too, because they did form in Los Angeles but moved to San Francisco.
Outcast. Hey, yeah. That should only be Atlanta teams?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, John Denver is not from West Virginia.
Correct.
But he sings about West Virginia.
All right, this is another wrinkle. If the song is about the place, then maybe they should be allowed to use that, right? West Virginia absolutely should be able to use Country Road, even if John Denver is not from West Virginia.
But here's the issue. Go back to Enter Sandman, which is used a lot. Cal football was sleeping. Cal football didn't use Enter Sandman, and Virginia Tech scooped it up like in 2002 or something.
Yeah, they're going to have to give that back.
They have to give that back?
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Yankees can't use Enter Sandman.
The Hokies are not going to like that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for them. They're going to have to stick to, Virginia artists.
So does Wisconsin have to give back Jump Around by House of Pain?
Definitely.
Oh,
damn.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, they do.
And
No,
the
they do.
Killers, sorry, that goes straight to Nevada, specifically, I guess, Vegas, right? They're from Las Vegas. But I'll give it to the whole state. I think Reno should be able to use Killers, too. Some of it is state-specific, some of it is city-specific. We're workshopping it still.
So Seton says that if your team, school, institution, university, or franchise is going to use a song, that there is, with some exceptions to the rule, a set of criteria that should be followed. For instance, number one, it should be a song from an artist that is from your market. Number two, there is an exception that the song can be used from an artist out of your market if it is about your market. And then number three said that there are some state versus region versus town, city, community exceptions he would be willing to hear out. I got to tell you, as somebody who is ordinarily against arbitration.
Oh, come on. No, we're not. You're not going to agree with this arbiter crap.
I cannot.
No. Why did I come back from being sick? Are you serious?
There is a part of me, and I want you to know that this is a stance that I almost feel I am betraying a lot of my philosophical reasons for holding beliefs.
Oh, you're betraying this room right now is what you're doing.
I am working on a gut. I kind of like that take.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Here's the thing. The only way you should not be able to use a song is if the artist says, hey, I don't want you to use that song. That's the only way. I mean, find a song, adopt a song, use the song, and if the artist is cool with it, good.
I have a theory, and this is weird because it's a theory about myself.
There's a state out there, Rob, that probably has no hit songs at all. So what do? They get no music.
I don't believe that to be true. I cannot imagine that there is not that there is a state.
Idaho. Who came from Idaho?
I don't know. I bet ChatGPT can help us out with that. We'll come up with that. But I think I have a theory on why I feel the way I feel without really knowing why I feel the way I feel. I think I have a theory on this. And I think the theory that I'm holding here is the fact that, much like the reason we love our teams in the first place, it is because they are a representation of some element of us. Most people like the team that they like because it is a representation of where they come from. I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. I still tell people when asked, where are you from? I was born in New Orleans, but I live in Greenville, South Carolina. And this place is home for me. I am exceptionally proud to live here, to call this place home. I think it is an amazing place. But I've also never made it a secret that I am a New Orleans kid born and raised, and the goal for me is to retire back to the Big Easy. That's where I want to end either my career, my life, or both. So I think to have music, and this also may come from the fact that that is my home, that is where I would like to end it all, my life, my career, whatever. It's obviously a city with remarkable music. It is an incredible music scene. When the New Orleans Saints score a touchdown, they play the second line, a brass band song known from jazz funerals in Mardi Gras. I think that for me, music represents, much like your sports team does, music represents a big part of your identity. It represents a big part of who you are, perhaps where you come from, perhaps your background in life, whatever. Emo kids like emo for a reason. Metalheads like metal for a reason. Hip-hop fans like hip-hop for a reason. It is some representation of who you are and where you come from. And for me, as somebody who has always gravitated towards teams that don't just buy into, but invest into their community, I think having local music is a good way to enhance that, right? Like, I have always celebrated the Greenville Triumph, the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, because I think those two teams do a remarkable job, better than most other pro teams I've ever worked with, of being involved in, invested in, and wanting to represent their community. Every time the Greenville Triumph come out with a new jersey for themselves to the Liberty, it is always tied into Greenville. There's always some representation or symbolism about the city that they call home, and I think that is a very cool aspect. I think that if a team does the same with music, and it picks music that is either from or about that community, it is just one more way that they can reach a hand out to fans and say, this is about you. Yeah, it's our team, but this is about you. And in an era where we've got teams like Oakland and teams like Colorado who don't feel like they really give a damn about their local community, it feels like to me to celebrate the identity of the community that you are in
He's
and that
talking about
supports
baseball,
you.
by the way.
I'm talking about every sport.
Well, when you said Oakland and
right.
Colorado.
Right. When I talk about the A's and the Rockies,
Right.
Those are teams that don't really seem to really give a damn about their local community at all. So for me, I think that for me as a fan, there is an enhanced attachment to a team that shows we want to be part of the community. My big struggle with as a Saints fan right now is that I don't think my team gives a damn about New Orleans anymore. I think they just view it as the money pit, right? Like, I don't think they're connected to the local community based on the decision that the owner has made over the past couple of years. I'm really struggling with that right now as a fan because that's big, that's important to me. So I don't have an issue with this take. I'm not saying that like it's mandated. I'm just saying teams I think would be better suited if they utilized as their focus, like their touchdown song, their fourth quarter song, whatever. The Florida Gators do that with Tom Petty. He's from Gainesville, Florida. They sing "Won't Back Down" at the start of every fourth quarter, and I got to tell you, I can't stand a Florida Gator. It is one of the coolest things happening in college football. It's only a couple of years old. One of the coolest things happening in college football. So I kind of like the take, but from a different angle of it makes me feel like that team is making an added emphasis and effort to be connected with the community that they are representing when they pull on the jersey.
Yeah, so you can do all that, everything that you just said, and that's fine. But if there's another Tom Petty song that another team in another state likes, they should be able to use it as long as Tom Petty doesn't have a problem with it, and he doesn't because he's dead.
I mean, the Rockies have lost like 52 in a row. They could use Free Fallin', and it would make perfect sense.
It absolutely would.
I don't know, man. Listen, I'm
so
not saying...
So did I react the way you thought I would?
Yes, 100%.
Oh, I'm glad.
100% I thought that was going to be your take.
I'm glad you know me.
I look at it, and my thought is this.
You just said that key word. You knew you'd trigger me.
My thought here is not there should be a rule that teams can't use music from outside their market. I'm saying that I personally would very heavily encourage teams to use music that is from their market. Either the artist is from your town, city, state, or the song is about it. Joey B pops in the chat and brings up one of my biggest offenders of this rule. The University of Alabama uses a song that is from a band called Alabama. Now, the band Alabama, I actually own an Alabama hat, like the band Alabama, because they were a band that my old man listened to before he passed away. And they're a band that their lead singer, and I forget his name. I'm choking on the name right now. Dadgummit. Randy Owen. I knew I'd get there. Randy Owen used to, when I was growing up in Destin, Randy Owen vacation. I don't know. I may have lived down there, but he would show up at a little bar called the Hog's Breath Saloon. And Randy Owen would show up with his guitar and he would just walk on a stage and start playing music. Like you get randomly every now and then get a cover concert from Randy Owen. I grew up loving Alabama. They have a song they call Dixieland Delight. Spent my dollar, parked in a holler near the mountain. Okay, great song. Great song. I don't care what you think. It's a great song. Alabama fans scream this song in the fourth quarter. Except for the entire song is about being in Tennessee. The first line is rolling down a backwoods Tennessee byway. He repeatedly refers to Tennessee throughout the song. Homegrown country girl gonna give me a whirl on a Tennessee Saturday night. They are singing a song about a dude and a truck and a girl in Tennessee.
So you're saying Clemson and South Carolina should use only South Carolina bands? Who gets Marshall Tucker Band? Who gets Hootie and the Blowfish?
Well, I mean, Hootie goes to South Carolina. That's an obvious one.
Yeah, it is. Who gets James Brown? I mean, because James Brown was born in South Carolina.
I didn't know that.
According to the internet, because I just looked it up.
I mean, you got Hootie. Who gets Chubby Checkers from South Carolina?
Who gets daggum Aaron Tippin?
Who gets Dizzy Gillespie? There's some bangers out of Dizzy Gillespie. Linda Martell is from South. Josh Turner is from South Carolina. You got options here.
You're throwing some names out. You have no idea who they are.
Aaron Tippin is from South Carolina. I do know these people. I'm a music guy.
I already said Aaron Tippin, by the way.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I was busy getting my... Marcus King I love Marcus King. I've seen him like 6 times since I moved here. He's fantastic. The point here is, I'm not saying you can't use artists not from your market. I'm saying it would be great marketing and community relations if you did for your big songs, not you're like, oh, we got a 30-second timeout.
Clemson should go with Marshall Tucker and take the highway like their baseball team did.
Wow. And that's how we walk off that segment of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Spend my dollar.
There actually were some bands from Idaho, but I'd never heard of any of them. So
Give me a couple.
I'll have to look it up again. No, you can do it. I think there was one I had heard of, and that was it.
Jewel. Oh no, that's Eileen Jewel. That's a different Jewel. That's not actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Josh Ritter. I think Josh Ritter was the Royal City Band. I feel like
You don't know who that is.
Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Yeah, that's the one that I know. Name me a song that Paul Revere and the Raiders did.
Cherokee people, Cherokee pride, so tribe, so proud to live.
Look at you. Okay.
Okay, it's canceled. Can't do that one anymore. I'm looking through like all of these bands, like trying to, okay, do I know this? Do I know this? And like half of them are like studio musicians who played on big time albums. Norman Bates was an American jazz double bass player.
Norman Bates. Okay. He also loved his mama. And showers.
Okay. There is one that I just, hilariously, ironically, and I did not know this, I just found out about them on social media a couple of weeks ago. Shane Smith and the Saints are an old school red dirt country band. Just like throwback.
Wait. Is red dirt actually a style, or
Red
you
Dirt
just
Country, yes.
made that up?
Yes. No, red dirt country is absolutely solid.
I wish I still didn't know that.
It is like Oklahoma, Texas, folk, country, rock, all mixed together. But it's usually like rebel country. I actually, for the record, James, completely subscribe to that. John Denver was not singing about West Virginia.
He was singing about Virginia.
West
Yeah.
Virginia. I completely subscribe to that being true. Somebody drew up a map one time and highlighted the things Denver sings about, and it's all in Virginia. It's pretty spectacular. Dixieland Delight is about Tennessee. I don't understand why Tennessee has never reclaimed that song from them. I would 100% take it back.
Tennessee's got their own song. I mean,
Good old Rocky Top. Woo!
you know the
Rocky
kind of
Top,
revolt that would happen if they tried to take Rocky Top away from and replace it with
I'm
another
not saying
song.
replace it. I'm saying take their thing away from them while keeping your thing too.
Good thing most people don't ascribe to Seaton's idea, and never will. Never going to be a thing.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, and shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. With AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a time to wait.com. Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Kirby Smart also joined Paul Feinbaum during SEC spring meetings down in Destin, Florida last week. He was asked about the transfer portal. This was a conversation that was brought up to Dabo Swinney as well during his ACC In the Huddle show, where he did a sit down with Bill Belichick, the head coach, of course, famously of the North Carolina Tar Heels. And he was asked about the portal. He said, hey, look, at the end of the day, like, we're going to use it, but we're going to use it strategically. We're going to use it sparingly. We're only going to use it where it benefits us, not just for the sake of, oh, that guy's good, go get him. Kirby Smart got asked a very similar question by Feinbaum. Have you accepted the portal? Do you embrace the portal? And what do you think about it at large now that we've got a couple of years in the rearview mirror? Here is how Kirby Smart responded to that from Paul.
Well, we've all accepted the portal. The portal can be a really good thing. I tell the stories all the time about a kid that maybe didn't play at a place and he went on and advanced his career. The kid that gets a new fresh start. I think every coach accepts the portal for what it is. I think the timing of the portal right now is really critical because it affects so many things. We have become a little bit more accustomed with the December-January portal. There's also an April portal. And will it be a one portal window? Will it be two portal window? And if it's one portal, when will it fall? That's become a really critical decision because it's going to affect people's cap, your cap space, and when that falls. And a lot of talk about academic calendars and how it affects every school differently. And we've gone through that. A lot of us have learned to navigate. And to be honest with you, in defense of the players, they want to go to a new school in January if they're leaving. They want an opportunity to go somewhere in January. To possibly hold kids to April, I don't know how well received that'll be by the student athletes.
So, this brought out for me a thought that I've shared with you before, but I'll share it again. This brought out to me a thought that I've had. One thing that I think very much happens to people, to situations, to circumstances, to entities of whatever type, is that when change is requested, when change is demanded by the people, and that change inevitably hits a point of no return where it must happen, there is an opportunity by those who must implement the change but do not like it to do so in a way that makes the thing look bad because people don't spend a few minutes to look at why the thing looks bad in its implementation. To take you back a number of years, this is like when the NFL made pass interference reviewable for a couple of years there. And we all know why. We all know why. But they made pass interference reviewable. And when they started doing the reviewable pass interference, it almost felt as if, and it felt as if because that it was being intentionally poorly run. It's like they would have a call for a pass interference call, and it would be one of those things where they would go to the booth and they'd have the replay expert, the rules official up there, and he would say, oh, according to the rules, it's this, that, and here's the contact, and there's the ball, and it's this, that, and the other. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's got to get overturned. And then the ref would come out and go, after reviewing the replay on the little board thing over there in the corner, we've decided that we were definitely right the whole time. And you guys are dumb, bad, and wrong, so we're leaving it the way that we called it because we're smarter than you. I despise it so much. I despised it then. I despise it now because it really wasn't that difficult. But they kept screwing up the process unnecessarily, and I'm going to keep it a buck, I think intentionally. They kept screwing up the process, I think intentionally, so that when it came up next year for a vote for renewal, everybody in a position of power in the NFL went, that was a waste of our time. Now, again, I think it was done with that being the end result intended. You know, if we make this look bad enough, then they'll vote not to renew it, and we, specifically as officials in the officials union, won't have power taken from us anymore. Because I'll tell you, I do think right now we are dealing with a scourge in Major League Baseball, and that is they all know the ABS is coming. All right? It went spectacularly well in spring training, to the point that in a Rays game this weekend, there was an atrocious call, about 6 inches off the plate, called a strike, and a Rays player turned and looked at the official, had like a, "Are you sure?" word. The ref was like, the ump was like, "Yeah, I definitely got it as a strike." And the Rays player sarcastically tapped his helmet, which is in spring ball how you call for a video replay. And the umpire, without a second's hesitation, threw him out of the game. And I went, "Oh, you're soft." I mean, I understand it. He just openly challenged and mocked you right there at home plate where everybody's eyes on you. But here's the thing. You were way wrong. 6 inches of wrong. That's a lot of wrong. But it got tossed. And to me, this is a spot where officials are kind of fighting back because their egos are a little bit hurt. Now, why am I talking about this when it comes to the portal? Very simple. Because I genuinely believe at this point that the refusal to fix the transfer portal, which we've said 1,000 times, really easy to get it right. The day after the national championship game, the portal opens for 30 days. Just do that. One portal window, 30 days. If you want to do two, do another one after spring camps come to their conclusion before the summer term starts, right? End of the spring term, there is a window. Make it a 30-day window so that every school's conclusion of their spring semester, so that nobody has to leave school early, nobody's got to quit their classes, whatever. Make it to where that 30 days, you have one that goes from the end of the night that college football plays the national championship. It's open for 30 days, and then do another one that covers the entire window of closing spring semesters for schools. Just set them up where there's 2-month-long windows. Everybody can leave the second that season's over. And everybody can leave once they get through the spring and they have time in the program to make a decision of, I do or do not want to be here anymore. And then the windows are closed. And now you can't transfer anymore. All right? It's not that complicated. But as Kirby points out here, it's like they are coming up with all these reasons to make it more complicated or to seem more complicated. It's like they're coming up with all these reasons to not make what is maybe the easiest change in the world to make. And you don't even have to do it this year. This year's done. Make it for next year. Hey, we're new portal. At midnight, the night of the national championship game, the portal opens, you got 30 days. Then we go through spring. We go through the end of the spring semester. It's like 2 months later, 3 months later, whatever. We're going to take every college spring window, and we are going to open up a 30-day window that covers every one of those schools. So everybody's got 2 chances. End of the season, you go, I hated it here, I want out. And then again, after the spring, you go, I've been in the program, I went through the spring, it's clear I'm not going to get what I want out of this experience, I want out. And once that April window closes, bang, it's gone. It's gone. You're on that team until next fall. It's like they keep coming up with more ridiculous reasons that they can't make one of the easiest changes that could be made to get everybody to, maybe not love it, but at least be on the same page with how it's run and when it's run for the betterment of everyone, players, coaches, and schools. It ain't that tough. Make the change.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, time for What the X, where Rob will tell us what's going on, and he'll have to because I did not click on this, but Rob knows everything that's Xing, so he'll know. The first thing that's Xing is hashtag baddies going wild.
Okay, I do not know specifically, I almost said explicitly, might also be appropriate.
Could be, that's why I didn't click on it.
Why that particular phrase is trending. We all know what a baddie is. You know what a baddie is, right? You know what a baddie is.
Yeah, Jade Cargill.
Baddie.
Yeah,
Absolute baddie. Rhea Ripley, baddie.
I didn't know what it was till she had baddies with her
Yeah.
when she was on AEW.
The baddies are smoke show women who also kind of got that attitude with them, right? Like the full package. Baddie.
There are other words for that, but yeah.
You can use whatever you want. I love a baddie.
Not me.
I love a baddie. I, for one, my wife's a bit of a baddie. Smoke show, as far as I'm concerned.
I would just say yes, ma'am.
Got that added. 100%. That's what you do to a baddie.
Yeah, that's
all right?
what you do. Okay.
Now, why Baddies Gone Wild is trending, I do not know. Because we all know what the Blanks Gone Wild callback is, at least for those of us in our 40s that remember those late night television
Did you ever
show ads.
stay at a hotel where you saw a van from Girls Gone Wild?
I did not.
We did for a softball.
Myrtle Beach.
No, for a softball outing. It was like
I don't like that.
It was,
That makes me uncomfortable.
It was, I forget where it was, but it was like, oh no.
That makes me really
You
uncomfortable.
know, you saw the van. I was like, oh no.
That dude got in trouble for a lot of,
he
a lot
did.
of that.
He did. By the way,
So-
no activity that I saw there, but I just saw the van.
Well,
So
the goal is for you not to see it until you pay $9.99 a month.
That's a good point.
I'm going to assume at least a part of the reason it's trending is because of the whole Stephon Diggs thing. Diggs was on a boat. He had a couple of baddies around him, despite the fact that his girlfriend Cardi B was on the other side of the boat. And then he pulled out a little baggie with some pink dust in it, and that pink dust is thought to be a form of a particular
Pink
sniffable
cocaine.
narcotic.
Yeah, pink cocaine.
Exactly. And so Vrabel got asked last week, like, what are you going to do about this? And he's like, well, we're looking into it. We got to find out. Here's the deal. Stephon, you're on a short list, my dog. You're on a short leash. You got one more screw up, and you are gone from the Patriots.
by the way, those videos of him will not go away. All right, the next thing is X is Logan Paul.
Tagging with John Cena against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso.
It has nothing to do with John Cena's Peacemaker, although it was a great line. I guess you haven't seen that.
I have not.
Face Off. Anyway, he is Xing because people are really angry that he's still with the WWE and friend of the show, R-Truth, is not.
Yeah, that's me. That's literally me. That's.
Okay.
I am now going to help that trend. Buddy of the show, R-Truth, announced on social over the weekend that his contract will not be renewed, so he is done with the WWE. So did Carlito, by the way, which
was
is not cool.
My next thing.
Which
was
is
Carlito.
not cool. Listen, I don't know if this is the reason why. I'm just going to take a stab in the dark here. My guess is this is 100% a corporate entity protecting bottom dollar by cutting wrestlers they have to pay a lot of money to that they do not feel brings value. I'm telling you right now, whoever made this decision, whether it's TKO or Triple H or whoever, you screwed up here, bud.
All right.
R-Truth is a golden mine.
If his last appearance was, if that was it, his last appearance was so good. I don't know if you've seen him talking about your husky son. If you haven't, you've got to watch it. Him talking to Solo and Solo's new guy. You got to watch it. It happened Friday. It was very good. All right, the next thing that's Xing is AJ Styles.
Is he cut too?
No, it's his birthday.
Oh, you son of a... You got me. I was about to get real worked up. Hey, that's it for... Is that it for us?
How old do you think he is?
AJ Styles, 46.
No, he's 48. And we got time for one more.
Damn, dude. I got to get in the gym.
We got time for one more. Joe Burrow is Xing.
Joe Burrow is Xing. Is it Joe Burrow's?
All right, let me tell you why really quick.
Did he bleach his hair again?
No, it's Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar. One has to go.
Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, or Lamar Jackson, one has to go. I have to answer that tomorrow because I cannot do it right now.
Oh, I can. Bye, Josh Allen.
No, knock it off.
Bye, Josh Allen.
Knock it off. Oh, that's what we're doing with the show. We're knocking it off. That's it for us. 20-hour break. We'll come back tomorrow. If you didn't like the show, you have bad taste in radio. Make your return tomorrow. I promise we'll try to do better. He's Lonzo. I'm Rob. Have a great rest of your day. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. See you back here tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Later.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yes, we all know umpires with their definitely not hurt all the time egos. I did see a clip from a guy that was doing somebody put a GoPro on the behind the plate ump doing the Texas. One of the regional games for Texas this weekend. And I got to tell you, I like that guy a lot. He was very open with his communication with the catcher and the pitcher. He was like explaining the calls he made, why he made them, where he made them, whatever. Like I legitimately was like, if more umpires like that, I'd hate less of them. hate's a strong word, seriously dislike is probably more accurate. I bet the Pacers won't be playing much Mellencamp. Old Patty Mack stirring it up in Indiana. All right, dudes, we got a jet. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, sorry. We'll try again tomorrow. Have a great day. Goodbye.
So